36-year-old woman is behind bars on a burglary charge. At just after 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 27th of May, authorities responded to a residence in the 100 block of West North Street in Madisonville, Kentucky, on a report that a woman had broken into the home. The homeowner told dispatch that he woke up and the suspect, later identified as 36-year-old Gabrielle Caldwell, was standing over him with a sharp-pointed metal object. He asked Gabrielle to leave, but she refused and began undressing. The homeowner then ran out the door to get away until police arrived on scene. Authorities said that Gabrielle appeared to be under the influence of an unknown substance, and that she couldn't provide the address she was in, and continued to say that she was doing laundry. Gabrielle was arrested and charged with second-degree burglary, and she was booked into the Hopkins County Jail on no bond. A 22-year-old Alabama man will spend decades behind bars for setting his ex-girlfriend on fire. On Thursday, the 29th of May 2025, Marquise Antoine Waynes appeared at the Morgan County Court, where a judge sentenced him to 22 years in prison for attempted murder. On the night of the 10th of January 2023, authorities responded to a residence in the 3000 block of North Bethel Road in Priceville, Alabama on reports of a domestic disturbance. When officers arrived, they found a 19-year-old female victim with severe burns to her face and upper torso. She was stabilized before being rushed to a burn center. The victim told investigators that her ex-boyfriend Marquise lured her to the premises via Snapchat under false pretenses. When she arrived, Marquise poured gasoline on her head and body before setting her on fire. Marquise was arrested 2 days later. The defense claimed that Marquise has long suffered from mental conditions that affect his perception of events and competency. He was granted a mental evaluation, but was deemed competent to stand trial. Authorities are investigating a homicide after 32-year-old Celeste LaDisha Harris was found fatally shot. At 11:02 p.m. on Tuesday the 27th of May, authorities responded to a parking lot in the 1400 block of Adams Farm Parkway in Greensboro, North Carolina on reports of a shooting. When officers arrived, they found Celeste unresponsive with at least one gunshot wound. Medics attempted life-saving measures, but they were unsuccessful and she was pronounced dead at the scene. Her death was ruled a homicide. Police have not released any suspect information or a possible motive. Celeste is survived by 2 daughters aged 1 and 9 years old. A 24-year-old man is behind bars following the death of his 3-year-old son. At just after 10 a.m. on Tuesday the 27th of May, authorities responded to a residence along Granite Creek Road in Libby, Montana, on reports that a toddler had accidentally shot himself in the face. When officers arrived on scene, they were met by the child's father, 24-year-old Timothy Moore, outside sitting on the road. Paramedics entered the premises and treated the child, and he was taken to the Cabinet Peaks Medical Center where he later died. Authorities said that Timothy appeared to be in an altered mental state, and when a deputy asked if he was involved in the accident, Timothy asked the deputy to shoot him. Timothy said that he left a loaded gun on the couch and went outside to smoke, and as he was standing outside he heard a popping sound. He then ran back inside and found his son holding a firearm with a gunshot wound to the head. When Timothy was being arrested, an officer observed track marks on his arm consistent with intravenous drug use. He also found a .22 caliber handgun and 2 magazines for the weapon in his pants pocket. While a detective was working to secure the scene, a woman who also lives at the residence asked for keys to a vehicle and her prescription medication. The detective found a clear glass pipe laying on top of the stairs outside. The pipe appeared to be consistent with drug paraphernalia used to smoke illegal narcotics. When the detective went inside the house, he found the woman's medication and found a multicolored silicone container with a crystal-like substance in it. The substance appeared to be consistent with illegal narcotics such as methamphetamine. Timothy is charged with negligent homicide and is being held at the Lincoln County Jail on a $500,000 bond. His preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 11th of June at the Lincoln County Justice Court. The child's body has been taken to the Montana State Crime Lab in Missoula so an autopsy can be performed. 19-year-old Matthew Crescenzo is behind bars for fatally shooting 20-year-old Naomi Oglesby. At 4:28 a.m. on Sunday the 25th of May, authorities responded to a residence at 711 South Laura Avenue in Wichita, Kansas on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they entered the home and found Naomi in a critical condition with a gunshot wound. She was rushed to a local hospital but later died. Naomi was 37 weeks pregnant when she was shot, but doctors were able to successfully deliver the baby and is currently in the neonatal intensive care unit. Investigators identified Matthew as a shooting suspect and he was taken into custody that morning. He was booked into the Sedgwick County Jail on charges of first-degree murder and aggravated battery. On Thursday the 29th of May, Matthew made his first court appearance where a judge set his bond at $250,000. Authorities said that Matthew and Naomi knew each other, but did not elaborate on their relationship. The motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A woman shot and injured a 39-year-old convicted child molester after catching him trying to rape her 12-year-old daughter in his hotel room. On the night of the 24th of May, authorities initially responded to the Baymont Inn at 3850 Eagle View Drive in Indianapolis, Indiana, on a report of the attempted rape of the girl. They later learnt that a man had been shot at the hotel. During the investigation, the girl's grandmother told police that a man named Bruce Pierce had been communicating with the 12-year-old online and over the phone. She said Bruce has tried to get the girl to run away with him. The grandmother told police that the victim and her sister woke her up when the mother hadn't come home. They went to the Baymont Inn to look for her and found the mother with Bruce in the lobby of the hotel. The 12-year-old girl stayed in Bruce's hotel room, while the mother and other daughter took items to the car. The mother told police she returned to the room and heard her daughter saying no, 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 and saw Bruce on top of the girl, whose shirt had been ripped. She told investigators that she then shot Bruce multiple times. He also had a gun in his hand at the time. The 12-year-old told police she had stayed in Bruce's room when the others left because she felt sick. While the family members were at the car, the girl said Bruce invited her to sit on the bed. Bruce then grabbed her arms, pinned her to the bed and began ripping off her clothes. She said he ripped her tank top and underwear before her mother came into the room, but said he did not touch her anywhere else. The girl said she got away from Bruce when her mother began shooting multiple times. They ran from the hotel and drove away in their grandmother's car before calling police and returning to the scene. Bruce was taken to the Eskenazi hospital and treated for his injuries, but is reportedly not yet in custody. The victim was also treated at a children's hospital because she was hit by the suspect's gun. A warrant was issued for Bruce's arrest on charges of attempted rape, attempted child molesting, unlawful possession of a firearm by a serious violent felon, and confinement where the victim is under the age of 14. Investigators learnt that Bruce was checked into a room at Regal 18 on West Washington Street, but had not been seen since Tuesday the 27th of May during the morning hours. Court records indicate that Bruce previously pleaded guilty to child molesting charges in 2 separate counties in 2016. The investigation into the matter continues. 41-year-old Eric Lee Nimsey is behind bars for beating and stabbing his father, 63-year-old Eddie Davis. At around 6 p.m. on the 26th of May, authorities responded to an apartment complex at 3451 Southeast 44th Street in Del City, Oklahoma, after they received a 911 call from Eric asking dispatch where he should stab his dad next. He asked the shocked dispatcher, "You want the left or right foot? Which one do you want, dispatcher, whoever you are?" Eric continued to pressure the confused dispatcher, telling her say left or right, and this will be on you. Eddie could be heard speaking in the background and screaming while his son continued attacking him. Eric said, "If you don't answer in 3 seconds, then I'm going to assume you said left." The dispatcher responded frantically, "What is happening?" The dispatcher spent 6 minutes trying to keep Eric talking until officers arrived at the scene. When they arrived, they could hear Eddie screaming for help through the front door of the apartment. Eric told the dispatcher that he refused to open the door, and if you want it open, you can kick it in. The officers then kicked down the door and entered the premises. Once inside, officers found a bloody scene with Eddie collapsed on the kitchen floor, with more than a dozen stab wounds and a knife stuck in his back. He was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Officers located Eric in the corner of a nearby room, on his knees and with his hands behind his back. Following his arrest, Eric made several delusional comments, including a claim that he was 120 years old and that the officers were plotting to kill his mother. He threatened to stab the officers, but also stated that he could get the lions and tigers to commit the crime for him. Eric then asked the police several times, "Do you believe in mercy?" Eric was charged with domestic assault and battery with a deadly weapon, and domestic assault and battery resulting in great bodily harm. He remains held at the Oklahoma County Jail on a $25,000 bond. 31-year-old Aisha Harris will spend decades behind bars for killing her friend's toddler daughter. On Thursday, the 29th of May 2025, Aisha appeared in the 3rd Judicial Circuit Court in Michigan and was sentenced to serve 28 to 50 years behind bars after she pleaded guilty to 1 count of second-degree murder in the 2024 death of 3-year-old Harmony Henderson. Aisha was initially charged with 1 count of felony murder and 1 count of first-degree child abuse, but in exchange for her pleading to the lesser murder charge, the District Attorney's Office dismissed both remaining charges. At around 1:30 p.m. on Sunday the 17th of March 2024, authorities responded to a residence in the 15700 block of Southfield Freeway in Detroit, Michigan, where they found Harmony unresponsive. She was transported to a local hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Harmony's mother, Paris England, left a 3-year-old autistic nonverbal daughter with her friend Aisha to babysit for her that weekend. Aisha locked Harmony and her own 1-year-old in a bedroom for several hours so she could smoke weed with a friend. When Aisha returned to the bedroom, she became enraged after she found Harmony had thrown up on herself. She doused the girl's face and head with scalding water, and then smashed her head into the side of the bathtub. When Paris video called afterward to check in, Aisha told the mother that Harmony fell down the stairs after missing a stop and bumped her head and that everything was okay. An autopsy determined that Harmony died from blunt force trauma, and her death was ruled a homicide. In court, Aisha had a short statement read through her attorney addressing Harmony's family, saying she apologized from the bottom of her heart. "I pray for peace and for healing for everyone's heart. Most of all, I pray for forgiveness for the pain that I have caused you. If I could rewind back today, I would. I took this plea in hopes of sparing the family the pain of the trial. Please find it in your heart to one day forgive me. I will forever be broken. I'm sorry." An Ohio man fatally shot a Morrow County Sheriff deputy after he responded to a domestic violence call. 53-year-old Brian Michael Wilson is charged with aggravated murder in the fatal shooting of 31-year-old Deputy Daniel Scherer. At 7:43 p.m. on the 26th of May, Daniel responded to a residence at 105 Olive Green, Marengo Fulton Road in Marengo, Ohio, on reports of a disturbance. Daniel's body cam showed him arrive at the property, where the suspect was seated on his porch with a firearm visible in his hands. Daniel approached the stairs of the porch to engage in a conversation with Brian, but the suspect swore and threatened the deputy, saying, "Don't come up here. I'm not in the mood. Don't come around that corner. I will kill you." When Daniel disregarded the warning, Brian said, "I'm not playing. You better just go if you want your family to see you tomorrow. Get out of here now." As Daniel continued to try to speak to Brian, the suspect opened fire, fatally striking him. Authorities said that Brian used 2 handguns, both of which were recovered at the scene. Daniel's body cam reportedly picked up the audio of the clicks of one of Brian's guns, which he fired until he ran out of ammunition. Brian was also shot by police during the incident, and he was taken to the hospital in a critical condition. He's been arrested and charged with aggravated murder. One of Brian's neighbours told police that the suspect said early that night, "I don't want you around this. I don't want you to get involved. If I were to die tonight, I'll be okay with it." Brian has a criminal history dating back to the 1990s, including a 2009 arrest following a domestic violence incident in his former home in Ohio's Marion County. A man who admitted to beating his mother to death with a hammer will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. On Tuesday, the 27th of May 2025, 31-year-old Douglas Reed appeared at the Coles County Court in Illinois and was sentenced to 58 years in prison without parole for the murder of his 60-year-old mother, Lori Ames. At 9:04 a.m. on the 7th of February 2025, authorities responded to a residence at 2912 Oak Avenue in Mattoon, Illinois to complete a welfare check. When officers arrived, they entered the home and found Lori deceased with blunt force trauma to her head. During the investigation, authorities identified Douglas as a person of interest. At 10:46 a.m. that morning, Mattoon police located Douglas in Moultrie County, and he was taken in for questioning. During an interview, Douglas admitted to striking his mother several times in the head with a hammer in the early morning hours before fleeing the area in his mother's car. 39-year-old Dashika McDowell and a 22-year-old daughter Jada McDowell are behind bars after a fight between them left Jada's infant seriously injured. On Tuesday, the 27th of May, authorities responded to reports of a domestic disturbance at Dashika's home, located along Carlo Drive in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Deputies learned that an argument escalated into a physical fight, in which the women used household objects to strike each other. During the struggle, Jada picked up her daughter but kept fighting her mother. At some point, the baby was injured during the altercation. The child was transported to a local hospital, where medical staff determined she had suffered a skull fracture. After a thorough investigation, detectives arrested both women the following day. They were booked into the Lafourche Parish Correctional Complex on domestic abuse and cruelty to juvenile charges. Tashika's bail was set at $160,000, while Jada's was set at $105,000. 19-year-old Anna Tipton is behind bars for possession of a destructive device. On Thursday, the 29th of May, an Evansville police officer in Indiana transported Anna to the St. Vincent Hospital for evaluation after she reportedly made threats to end her life at an Eastside Evansville hotel. During the intake process, a St. Vincent police officer discovered a suspicious item inside Anna's backpack. The object appeared to be a pill bottle wrapped in duct tape, with a matchstick protruding from the lid and a piece of cloth attached. A second suspicious item was also located in the backpack, an aluminum pipe sealed at both ends with duct tape. The St. Vincent police officer identified what appeared to be incendiary materials inside the pipe, accompanied by a strong chemical odour. Evansville Police Department bomb technicians responded to the scene, examined the recovered materials and conducted an interview with Anna. She reportedly admitted to constructing the devices, which were confirmed by the bomb technicians to be improvised incendiary devices. Anna also disclosed that she had 2 additional devices located at a residence in Newburgh, Indiana. During a search of her home, authorities discovered 2 more incendiary devices concealed in modified Monster Energy drink bottles. These devices were constructed using the same methods and materials as those found in Anna's backpack. During a post-Miranda interview, Anna revealed that she had planned to deploy the devices at a high school she previously attended, with the intent to cause harm to others. She was arrested and charged with possession of a destructive device, and she was booked into the Vanderburgh County Jail that evening. She remains held on a $5,000 bond. An 18-year-old woman will spend the next 2 decades behind bars for multiple serious offences involving a toddler girl. On the afternoon of Thursday, the 22nd of May, Alexis Connie Bray of Lee Avenue, Amory, Mississippi appeared at the Lee County Court and entered the guilty pleas on charges of sexual battery and distribution of child porn. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison and she won't be eligible for parole. District Attorney Jason Herring said the plea was approved by law enforcement and the victim's family. Alexis was just 17 when investigators with the Lee and the Monroe County Sheriff's offices began looking into her crimes. After a 2-week investigation, Alexis was booked into the Lee County Jail on 5 felony charges as an adult and held without bond. After the case was presented to the Lee County Grand Jury, Alexis was indicted on 3 counts of sexual battery of a 2.5-year-old girl, plus 4 counts of child exploitation for taking pictures or videos of their sexual acts. 41-year-old Rhonda Pugliese is behind bars after police found her 6-year-old son dead in his bedroom. At around 10 a.m. on the 30th of May, authorities responded to Rhonda's home at 2502 Bedford Drive in Fort Pierce, Florida to conduct a welfare check. Rhonda's son, 6-year-old Ramil Pierre, had not attended class in more than 2 weeks, and his school raised concerns. When officers arrived at the property, they found Rhonda in the driveway. She escorted a deputy into the home, where Ramil was discovered deceased lying in his bed. His body was wrapped in fabric with only his face exposed. He had visible signs of decomposition, indicating that he had been dead for several days. It's believed his mother was preserving his body. Rhonda said that she was working with God to exorcise demons out of her son's body, and that she believed that when the child had stopped moving and basically passed away, at that point she felt that the child had been released of those demons and was waiting for him to come back. Rhonda said that the last time she spoke to Ramil was on the 18th of May, which authorities believe was when the boy was killed. St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office said that Rhonda exhibited a lot of highs and lows during the investigation, from laughing at different times at the scene to crying. Rhonda was arrested and booked into the St. Lucie County Jail. She's charged with second-degree murder, failure to report a death and altering a body. On Saturday the 31st of May, she appeared in court over Zoom from jail where a judge denied her bail. The results of the autopsy to determine Ramil's cause of death is pending. 19-year-old Connor Johnston Lyons is behind bars for fatally stabbing his mother, 55-year-old Lara Lyons. At 2:11 p.m. on Friday the 30th of May, Authorities responded to a residence at 6078 AA Drive in Shreveport, Louisiana after an individual called 911 and reported my brother killed my mother. When officers arrived on scene, they found Connor was waiting sitting on the back steps of the home. They handcuffed him and advised him of his Miranda rights. He told deputies that he was hearing voices and he had stabbed his mother 3 times on the right side of her neck with a knife while she was asleep. Deputies searched the home and found Lara deceased in her bed. Connor's charged with second-degree murder, and he remains held at the Caddo Correctional Center with bond denied. A Tennessee police chief has been charged for stealing items from Walmart. On Monday, the 2nd of June, a grand jury in Lauderdale County indicted Vincent Tice, chief of the Gates Police Department, with 19 counts relating to shoplifting, including theft of merchandise and official misconduct. According to the indictment, Vincent shoplifted from Walmart in Ripley, Tennessee multiple times while in uniform between the 27th of February and the 6th of May. Court records state that he stole dozens of items including a candle, bottle of bleach, navel oranges, plants, toiletry wipes, jeans, a 50-foot garden hose, Kool-Aid packets, Lunchables, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, men's joggers, a macaroni cheese cup, extension cords and more. The total value stolen came to $168.27. Vincent was previously an officer with the Ripley Police Department. He sued the city after he claimed he was fired for reporting excessive force and racial discrimination. That lawsuit was dismissed a year later. 24-year-old Thomas Carty is behind bars for fatally shooting 25-year-old Jalen McDonald. At just after 12 a.m. on Saturday the 31st of May, authorities responded to a residence in the 3100 block of Broken Pine Lane in Charlotte, North Carolina on reports of an assault with a deadly weapon with injuries call. When officers arrived on scene, they located Jalen with a gunshot wound and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Following an investigation, police identified Thomas as a suspect and he was arrested without incident. Court documents state that Jalen had an argument with a woman in the home, and that's when the woman's son Thomas shot Jalen. Thomas is charged with murder and robbery with a dangerous weapon, and he's held at the Mecklenburg County Jail. He appeared in court on Monday the 2nd of June, and was denied bond and was appointed a public defender. Jalen's mother, Latosha Chambers, said that her son was killed by the hands of someone he trusted. The investigation into the matter continues. A homicide investigation is underway following the fatal shooting of 17-year-old Nevaeh Carter. At just after 2 a.m. on Saturday the 31st of May, authorities responded to the intersection of North Graham Street and Craighead Road in Charlotte, North Carolina on reports of an assault with a deadly weapon with injuries call. When officers arrived, they discovered Nevaeh deceased inside a car with multiple gunshot wounds. Authorities said that Nevaeh was in the vehicle when suspects pulled up and fired shots, striking and killing her. A police report indicated that a 16-year-old boy was hospitalized, although it's unclear if he was shot. A report also states that another car was also damaged, and video from the scene reportedly showed at least one of the cars crashed. No arrests have been made to date, as the investigation into the matter continues. 23-year-old Ariana Reiki Kerry Parker White is behind bars after she harmed her 3 young children. The incident occurred at just after 5:40 p.m. on Wednesday the 28th of May, inside an apartment in the 7100 block of South Harvard Avenue in the Englewood neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. Police said that the mother used a sharp object to injure her children, aged 1, 3 and 5 years old, by cutting their wrists. Neighbor Devon Stringfellow told police that the mother came out of the apartment covered in blood, screaming, "Help me, my baby." He quickly put the 3 kids and the mother into his truck and drove them to the hospital, where they remain in a serious condition. Devon said that Ariana said that she was struggling and that the children had all different fathers. Witnesses said that the mother kept repeating that she could not raise the children alone. On Friday the 30th of May, Ariana was charged with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 3 counts of aggravated assault to a child, and she was booked into the Cook County Jail. On Saturday the 31st of May, Ariana made a first court appearance where a judge ordered her to be held while she awaits trial. She's due back in court on the 6th of June. 54-year-old Stacey Janelle Pettis of Chipley, Florida is behind bars following allegations of sexual misconduct involving a minor. The Washington County Sheriff's Office began investigating Stacey once a report was filed alleging that she performed lewd acts in the presence of a child. Investigators with the sheriff's office obtained an arrest warrant for Stacey after they said she confessed to the allegations. On the 29th of May, Stacey was arrested and transported to the Washington County Jail on charges of lewd and lascivious exhibition by an offender 18 years of age or older with a victim less than 16 years old. A 66-year-old man has been arrested for public indecency. At 1:30 p.m. on Thursday the 29th of May, authorities responded to Colchester Dog Park at Old Amston Road in Colchester, Connecticut, on a report of a person pleasuring himself out in the open. A landscaping crew in the area told police they witnessed a man touching himself while sitting on one of the park benches while also watching porn on his phone. The man fled before police arrived, but a witness was able to get the individual's car registration plate. Officials revealed the identity of the man as 66-year-old Alan Sims of Colchester. Upon further investigation, authorities located and arrested Alan. He was booked into the London County Jail on charges of public indecency and breach of peace. He has since posted a $5,000 bond and is scheduled to appear at the Norwich Superior Court on the 19th of June. 26-year-old Jessica Pagankoff has been charged after a toddler daughter died from ingesting oxycodone pills. At 5:34 a.m. on the 2nd of April, authorities responded to a residence along Ross Avenue in Warsaw, Wisconsin on a report that a 2-year-old was not breathing and did not have a pulse. When officers arrived, Jessica and her roommates directed them to a bedroom where they found the toddler lying on a bed, unresponsive, purple and cold. Officers attempted CPR, but stopped when it was obvious that the child was dead and beyond saving. While questioned, Jessica told investigators that she lived in the home with another woman and the woman's boyfriend, along with the other woman's 4 children. She said that she had been gone for most of the previous day, when a friend took her to the dentist and left her daughter with her roommate. She said that while left in the care of her roommate, the girl reportedly ate bourbon chocolate but seemed fine. Later that evening, Jessica was watching all of the children. She had a video call with her roommate during the evening and thought that one of the children and her daughter may have gone into the bedroom that Jessica's 2 roommates shared to try and find a game that had been taken away from the older child as punishment. Jessica said her daughter had acted normal that night. She ate her dinner and the child slept in the same bed as her in the basement bedroom. She said her daughter went straight to sleep when she took her to bed, which was unusual. She thought the young girl was alright because she was snoring, although she said the child's breathing sounded strange. When Jessica's roommates got home between 10:30 and 11 p.m, they noticed that the bedroom door was open and the light on. The children weren't supposed to go into the bedroom without permission. The 3 adults got into an argument when the 2 roommates said that Jessica wasn't watching the children properly. Jessica said she went to bed with her daughter and fell asleep after the argument. She said she woke up between 5 and 5:30 a.m. on the 2nd of April and found her daughter was not breathing and cold to touch. Jessica said she carried her daughter up to her roommate's bedroom to get help, and they called 911. Police found an open and empty bottle of prescription oxycodone in the roommate's bedroom and a bottle cap on the floor. The man said he thought he had 7 or 8 pills left in the bottle, but it was empty. Officers found 6 oxycodone pills on the floor and in the bedding when they searched the bedroom. A toxicology report later stated that the 2-year-old girl died from oxycodone poisoning. On Friday the 30th of May, Jessica was arrested and charged with neglect of a child resulting in death, and she was booked into the Marathon County Jail. On Monday the 2nd of June, she appeared in the Marathon County Court where the judge set her bond at $50,000, with the condition that she maintain absolute sobriety and not have any contact with anyone under the age of 18. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 11th of June. If convicted of the charge, Jessica faces a maximum of 15 years in prison and 10 years extended supervision. 28-year-old Zachary Williams is behind bars after he confessed to killing his 1-year-old son. At around 9 a.m. on Sunday the 25th of May, authorities responded to a home along McCorder Road in Jane Lou, West Virginia on reports of an unresponsive infant. Medics arrived and attempted CPR on the child before transporting him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The boy lived at the home with his mother, father and grandparents. Police first spoke to the grandparents who told them that other than a recurring cold, the boy was fine when they left for work at around 8 a.m. The boy was then in the custody of his mother and Zachary. The mother told detectives that the baby was completely fine when they woke up that morning. She said the boy was fussier than usual due to a cold and refused to go down for a nap. She then woke up Zachary for help because she felt herself becoming frustrated. The mother left the bedroom, and a short time later Zachary yelled for her to come back. She ran back into the room to see her son limp and barely breathing. She had Zachary call 911, and a dispatcher told her to put the child on his side. Once she did this, her son stopped breathing completely. She performed CPR until medical personnel arrived. Zachary told detectives that once he took over the care of the boy from his mother, he started rocking him in hopes of calming him down. Then the boy went rigid and then limp and became unresponsive. 2 days later, during the baby's autopsy, it was discovered that the child died of a severe skull fracture to the back of his head. Detectives interviewed Zachary again, where he confessed to throwing the child out of frustration, causing the baby to strike his head on the bed frame and the floor. He then stated it was all his fault. Zachary was arrested and charged with murder and child abuse causing death, and he's been held at the Central Regional Jail without bond. 77-year-old Patrick Wade is behind bars after killing his wife, mother-in-law and stepson, and critically injuring another. At around 8:30 p.m. on Thursday the 29th of May, authorities responded to a home at 12917 South Scottsdale Drive in Helbstad, Indiana on reports of a shooting. Patrick called 911 to say he shot 4 people in the home and that he'll be waiting for them in the front of his garage. He then told the dispatcher that he'll cut the conversation short so he could call his children and tell them what he did. When officers arrived on scene, they immediately detained Patrick, who told them where he left the gun used in the killings. Officers rushed inside and found the first victim, Patrick's 61-year-old wife Alma Waite, dead in the kitchen. They moved to the den where they located 3 other victims, Alma's 2 sons and an 81-year-old mother, Gloria Garcia Tapia, who was shot to death in a medical bed. One of her sons, 44-year-old Juan Ramirez, survived gunshot wounds to the neck and chest, while the other 39-year-old Fernanda Tapia Ramirez died. Authorities said that a child witnessed the shooting before fleeing to safety in an upstairs bathroom with 2 other family members. Police located spent shell casings throughout the den and kitchen, and the gun on top of a lawnmower in the garage. After receiving his Miranda rights, Patrick explained that he'd been married to his wife for about 2 years and had been talking about separating, although he did not want a divorce. He said he shot a water snake on the back of the property and came back inside with a gun in his back pocket. He stated that his wife was mad at him because he left to go to Bible study instead of staying home with his mother-in-law. He was in need of a caregiver. She said that she was also not happy that he brought the gun into the house and told him that he needed to leave. Patrick had purchased the home in 1998 with his then-wife Nancy Waite. He passed away in 2019. At that point, Patrick became the sole owner of the home. After his marriage to Alma, she became the sole owner, and then on the 27th of March, she added her daughter's name to the deed. Patrick questioned his wife about the paperwork she was holding. He said his wife told him she filed a quitclaim deed that put the home solely in her daughter's name when he got angry and told her that he wasn't going to move from the home in which he lived for 27 years. He told investigators that their argument went from the afternoon into the evening. He said that when Alma turned toward him from the kitchen sink while they were arguing over the home, he shot her. He then heard her sons in the den and shot them too. It's unclear if he meant to shoot Gloria, but she was shot while lying in a medical bed in the den. Patrick told detectives that he didn't deserve to live after what he did. "I shot them all, and I'm certainly not proud of that fact at all. I'm as guilty can be," he said. Patrick's charged with 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. He remains held at the Gibson County Jail without bond. 21-year-old Jackson Julian suggests he's behind bars for killing 27-year-old Hayley Hosford and severely injuring her friend. The incident occurred at around 1:40 a.m. on Wednesday the 28th of May at the Retreat at Sawgrass Village Complex parking garage located at 3002 Northwest 130th Avenue in Sunrise, Florida. Surveillance footage showed Jackson approaching a black Mercedes-Benz sedan and stabbing a woman who was sitting in the rear passenger seat after the driver, Ian Bryant, went inside the building. Sunrise police said that Hayley initially opened the door before spotting Jackson. He came back around the car from the driver's side when she tried to quickly close it in an attempt to shield herself from him. Jackson grabbed the door, forcing it open, and then a repeated stabbing motion was visible on video. As Ian returned to the parking garage, Jackson then got into a violent confrontation with him and stabbed him in the throat. Ian then ran away as Jackson chased after him, but he was able to get away and call 911. Jackson then attempted to flee in the victim's vehicle, but was unsuccessful. He got out of the car and appeared to search the ground for potential evidence before eventually leaving the garage. A responding officer arrived and spotted the victim in front of the complex with a puncture wound to his throat. Despite his injuries, He was able to speak with officers and told them that someone had stabbed him in the apartment complex's parking garage and then fled on foot. He described the suspect as a heavy-set black male with an afro. He told police that his friend Haley had also been stabbed and was still inside his rented vehicle in the parking garage. Ian was hospitalised and underwent a tracheostomy and remains in the intensive care unit. Police approached the car on the first floor of the parking garage and found the woman unresponsive on the floorboard of the back seat. She had multiple visible stab wounds to her neck and throat and was pronounced dead at the scene. A knife that appeared to be part of a set of steak knives was also found on the front passenger seat of the vehicle. After speaking to witnesses and reviewing surveillance footage, authorities located and arrested Jackson at an apartment a few doors away, where he lives with his mother, and a steak knife was found in his right front pocket. He reportedly told officers, "I just killed someone and walked away," but claimed he was murdering for self-defense. Jackson said he was inside the parking garage to cross over to another building where he uses a gym and saw the victim's car with its lights on and thought he should call police. He claimed that he didn't have a phone on him, so went back to his apartment to get his phone and a knife for personal protection. Jackson said he stabbed Haley multiple times, aiming for vital parts, and estimated that he stabbed her about 10 times. The medical examiner found at least 5 stab wounds to the neck and throat area. Jackson also said he stabbed Ian, but didn't know how severely he was injured because he ran away. While Jackson claimed self-defense multiple times, he could not detail any possible threats from the victims. He's charged with first-degree murder and first-degree attempted murder, and he remains held at the Braidwood County Jail without bond. 21-year-old DeMonte Swan is behind bars for fatally shooting 46-year-old Robert Lewis Harris. On Saturday, the 31st of May, authorities responded to the 4000 block of Hanging Moss Road in Jackson, Mississippi on reports of a shooting. When officers arrived, they found Robert deceased with multiple gunshot wounds right outside of Josephine's kitchen. During the investigation, authorities identified DeMonte as a shooting suspect. Authorities said that DeMonte and Robert were both inside the Shell gas station next door purchasing items. When Robert left the store, DeMonte came out and ran after him. Officials said that there was some type of altercation, and the suspect pulled out a gun and shot Robert. DeMonte was arrested and charged with murder, and remains held at the Hinds County Jail. 40-year-old William Anthony Milan is behind bars for strangling his 40-year-old wife Tiffany Milan. On the morning of the 27th of May, authorities responded to a residence in Boca Raton, Florida in reference to a domestic battery. When officers arrived, they met with Tiffany outside the premises, who advised them that she and her husband William got into a physical altercation that morning. She said that around 4 a.m. she was awoken to William choking her, causing her not to be able to breathe for a couple of seconds, after William discovered text messages on her phone from another man. Tiffany was crying and said she was worried that William would hurt her even more if she didn't report this incident. She said that the same thing happened 2 days earlier, but she was too scared to report it. Tiffany said that William also locked her out of the house and refused to give her the keys to the car so she could go to work. Officers observed red marks around her neck and to the side of her face, where she was also hit by William. Pictures were taken of her injuries as evidence. The officers tried to communicate with William, who stated that he was too upset to come outside and would only talk through his sliding glass door. He advised police that he found out that Tiffany was cheating and wanted to teach her a lesson. He said he took the keys to the car and refused to let her have them so she'll be late for work. When asked if he ever got physical, William stated that he only played loud music to let off some steam and denied ever putting his hands on Tiffany. The officers observed no injuries to William and determined that he was the primary aggressor. He was arrested and charged with battery by strangulation, and he was booked into the Palm Beach County Jail on a $7,500 bond. A bus driver in Lynn Haven, Florida has been arrested for striking a juvenile. The incident occurred on the 13th of May while Stacey Halloran was driving her bus during afternoon drop-off for Bay District schools. She allegedly slapped a 12-year-old boy with an open hand on his right upper back, which left a mark on the child for more than 48 hours. The matter was reported to the Florida Department of Children and Families, where an investigation confirmed the allegations. Authorities said that security footage on the bus caught the act, and the slap could be heard in the footage 3 rows from the front of the bus. A warrant was then issued for Stacey's arrest. On the 1st of June, Stacey was arrested and booked into the Bay County Jail on a charge of cruelty toward a child without great bodily harm. She appeared in the Bay County Court and was released after posting a $25,000 bond. Superintendent Mark McQueen from the Bay District Schools released a statement stating, "The incident that occurred on the bus is both troubling and disappointing. It's difficult to imagine that an adult entrusted with the care of students would act in such a manner, but when situations like this arise, we have a responsibility to respond swiftly and appropriately." He added that Stacey has been removed from duty and that the district is following up personal procedures outlined in the employee contract. Stacey's next court date is scheduled for the 21st of July. 31-year-old Cole James Craig is behind bars for dragging a woman with his vehicle during a domestic dispute. At around 2 a.m. on Sunday the 1st of June, the female victim was with Cole at his home along Union Circle, near Union Church Road in Flowery Branch, Georgia, when the victim asked Craig to take her home, about 5 miles away near McKever Road. When they arrived at the victim's home, she got out of Craig's car and he dumped her purse on the floorboard of the vehicle. While the victim was picking up items from the purse, he drove off and she was left hanging out of the car. He dragged her for a short distance, with the woman ultimately climbing back into the car and closing the door. Craig continued driving erratically at high speeds, despite the woman asking him to let her out. She was able to get out and call 911 when he stopped at a red light in the area of Atlanta Highway and Wadord Road in Buford, about 2 miles away from the woman's home. The victim suffered bruises to her arm and leg during the incident, but refused medical attention. At 3:45 a.m. that morning, Hull County deputies went to Cole's home and arrested him. He is charged with aggravated assault, false imprisonment, kidnapping, DUI, battery under the Family Violence Act, and driving while license suspended. He remains held at the Hull County Jail without bond. 23-year-old Imani Easley is behind bars after she shot 2 women. The incident occurred at just after 6 p.m. on Saturday the 30th of May at Coneman Park in the 2600 block of Shannon Avenue in Jennings, Missouri. The victims were trying to break up a fight when Imani became enraged and pulled out a gun and shot one woman in the arm and the second woman in the chest. The second woman remains in a critical condition. The shooting was captured on Facebook video, and witnesses helped police identify the suspect. Imani reportedly confessed to the shooting after being read her Miranda rights. Imani's charged with 2 counts of first-degree assault, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and 1 count of unlawful use of a weapon. She remains held at the St. Louis County Jail on a $500,000 cash-only bond. Scott Twetton is behind bars following a domestic assault incident at a motel that left a woman with permanent injuries. On the 22nd of May, authorities responded to Motel 6 in Fargo, North Dakota on reports of a disturbance involving a man and a woman in one of the rooms. When officers arrived at the scene, they knocked on the door and could hear a woman yelling for help. The door was opened by Scott, and police quickly saw a woman lying on the floor. When asked what happened, the woman told police that she was numb from the neck down. She said that Scott had hurt her, but did not elaborate. She told police that she had consumed a lot of alcohol, and there were broken beer bottles in the box inside the room. Paramedics arrived on scene to assess the victim, who said her neck hurt and she couldn't feel the entire right side of her body. She did not give any details on what happened, other than to say "he hurt me." She was taken to hospital for further evaluation. When police went to visit the victim in hospital on the 24th of May, they found her in a bed with a neck brace, saying that she was in severe pain. She also said that she couldn't remember what happened that night, or the police being in the motel room. The victim's nurse told police she had a seatbelt burn near both of her armpits, as if she was wearing a backpack. The nurse said that the victim had a fractured C5 vertebrae and a spinal cord injury. It was later revealed that she also suffered an injury to her T1 vertebrae. Police went back to interview the victim on the 30th of May, where she said she and Scott were drinking, which upset her because they had relapsed from sobriety. She said she was leaving when she felt her neck break, as she was standing and then fell to the ground. She said that Scott was standing behind her when she felt and heard her bones break before falling to the ground, and that Scott was the only person in the room with her. She said then that she doesn't think that Scott intended to cause that much damage, but did want to hurt her for trying to leave. She noted that he had physically abused her in the past. A nurse who was taking care of the victim told police that she'll never be what she was before the injuries. She could regain some movement through physical therapy, but that is largely up to how hard the victim works to recover it. Scott was arrested and charged with aggravated assault, domestic violence, permanent loss or impairment, and remains held at the Cass County Jail. If convicted, he faces up to 10 years behind bars. His preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 16th of July. 18-year-old Coda Ubel is behind bars for beating an elderly relative and biting a peace officer. At 12:06 a.m. on Saturday the 31st of May, authorities responded to a residence in the 300 block of Lincoln Avenue in Big Rock, Illinois, on reports of a domestic disturbance in progress. When deputies arrived, they saw Coda through a locked front door violently punching, slapping and kicking family member 71-year-old Deborah Ubel. Deputies also reported hearing the man threaten to kill the victim. The officers forced their way into the home, and as they attempted to help the woman, Coda attacked them. A taser was deployed, but Coda remained combative and bit one of the deputies. Coda was ultimately restrained and taken into custody. Deborah was taken to Delnor Hospital with a brain bleed and facial disfigurement. She remains hospitalized in a stable condition. Coda and the injured deputy were both treated at Delnor Hospital and medically cleared. The deputy was released the same night, while Coda was turned over to the custody of the Kane County Sheriff's Office. Coda is charged with attempted first-degree murder, aggravated domestic battery, strangulation, causing great bodily harm to a person 60 years or older, 2 counts of aggravated battery to a peace officer, resisting a peace officer, and consumption of alcohol by a minor. 30-year-old David Anderson is behind bars for fatally beating his 28-year-old living girlfriend Imani Parrish. At 8:57 p.m. on Wednesday the 30th of April, authorities responded to an apartment in the 600 block of Antrim Drive in Newport News, Virginia, on reports of an unresponsive woman. Authorities said that Imani's 10-year-old son tried calling and texting his mother, but she never replied back. His grandmother thought that was strange, so she asked a partner to check on her daughter and handed him a spare key to her apartment. When the partner arrived at the premises, he found her dead and contacted 911. Detectives at the scene found Imani's body shoved into a bedroom closet and wrapped in a comforter that was soaked in blood, and there was blood drag marks from the bathroom to the closet. The medical examiner's office identified the cause of death as blunt force trauma to the head. Authorities said that Imani had been bludgeoned to death that afternoon with a ceramic cover to a toilet bowl tank. Ceramic shards consistent with the composition of the toilet tank lid were found embedded in the victim's eye and hair, as well as her body and clothes. After following a series of events based on witness testimony, surveillance footage and recovered evidence, they identified David, Imani's living boyfriend, as a suspect. A male witness told police that Imani began seeing another man a few weeks before the slaying. That man told police that Imani told David that she was planning to move out of the Newport News apartment to her own place, and it made it clear that David was not coming with her. At just before 8:30 a.m. on the 30th of April, David texted one of Imani's friends asking if she had seen her. That friend would later tell detectives that Imani had started a new relationship with a man she was very excited about. When David finally reached Imani that morning, he demanded to know where she had been. A neighbour told police he saw David pacing outside the Newport News apartment about 11 a.m, on the phone yelling and appearing agitated. The man whom Imani had recently begun seeing told police she had left his place about 11:30 a.m. that morning, after she spent the night with him in Portsmouth. It wasn't clear where Imani went next, but flock safety cameras in Newport News showed her arriving in the area of the Antrim Drive apartment just before 1 p.m. The other man told police he was texting back and forth with Imani until 1:26 p.m, after which he never got another response. After Imani's son could not reach her after he got home from school later that afternoon, Imani's stepfather went to her apartment that evening and made the discovery. Detectives immediately noticed that the toilet bowl's tank cover was missing from the bloody bathroom, with investigators soon finding the broken lid in an outdoor trash bin. Also in the bin were bloody clothes, white sneakers, a white tank top and black pants with one of David's debit cards in a pocket. Police said that David was seen wearing identical clothes at a local convenience store the same morning. Another witness told police he watched a man putting a TV into a car outside the Antrim Drive address about 4 p.m. that day. From there, police said that David drove Imani's car to Murray's pawn shop on Jefferson Avenue and pawned a 55-inch TV and a Bluetooth speaker. Blood spatters were found on the TV and inside the car. On Monday the 2nd of June, David was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He remains held at the Warwick County Jail without bond. A man is behind bars after he almost beat his pregnant girlfriend to death. On the afternoon of Friday the 6th of June, 21-year-old Logan Willis of Oak Hill, West Virginia, drove to a rural gas station in Jackson County where he called 911 to report he believed he had just killed his girlfriend and that he had his and the victim's other child with him. He said that he beat his girlfriend in his car until she stopped breathing and dragged her body into a wooded area near Kenner. Deputies arrived at the wooded area and followed a blood trail that led them to the woman's body, only to discover that she was still alive. They also discovered that she was in late stages of pregnancy. Authorities said that the victim was observed to have numerous serious injuries consistent with a life-altering beating, and she was rushed to a hospital. Remarking about the unborn child, Jackson County Sheriff Ross Mellinger said it's as much of an issue making sure that the baby survives as her. Logan was arrested and charged with attempted murder, malicious assault and strangulation. He remains held at the South Central Regional Jail on a $500,000 bond. There's been no update on the woman or her unborn child's condition since her admission to hospital. The motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 37-year-old man is behind bars for killing his parents. At 12:35 p.m. on Friday, the 6th of June, authorities responded to a residence at 29 Saunders Avenue in Largo, Florida, after a caller requested a welfare check for an employee that did not report for work. When deputies arrived, they entered the premises and found 53-year-old Elizabeth Lee Kirchner and 64-year-old Stephen Eric Kirchner deceased in a living room with gunshot wounds. During the investigation, detectives learnt that the victim's son, 37-year-old Nicholas Stephen Kirchner, fled the scene prior to deputies' arrival. At 3:41 p.m. that day, about 460 miles away, deputies with the Taliaferro County Sheriff's Office in Georgia received a 911 call from a motorist about a suspicious man in the shoulder of the highway. He was wearing all white and a red baseball hat and kneeling with one hand raised. A deputy approached the man, who identified himself as Nicholas Kirchner, and he said he was armed. Investigators learnt that he was not only a homicide suspect, but had also pointed a gun at several people earlier that day in Sumter, South Carolina. During that incident, he allegedly told someone, "I've already killed 2 people, I'll kill some more." The suspect reportedly threatened several people at gunpoint and ordered one of them to enter a home to retrieve an item. He held one person hostage and said he will shoot that person in the head if his demands were not met. Authorities said that an armed resident confronted Nicholas, prompting him to flee the scene. After Nicholas was taken into custody in Georgia, he admitted multiple times to killing his parents, and he described the slayings as a righteous kill. He also said he abandoned a stolen Nissan Pathfinder not far from where he was arrested. He was transported to McDuffie County Jail in Georgia, and he awaits extradition to Pinellas County Jail in Florida, where he faces 2 counts of first-degree murder. Further charges are pending. The motive of the killings is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 25-year-old Lauren Shakespeare is behind bars for fatally beating a 2-month-old son. At around 8:20 a.m. on Monday the 2nd of June, authorities responded to an apartment in the 100 block of North Ashland Avenue in Chicago, Illinois, and reports of an unresponsive infant. Lauren called 911 and told dispatch that her baby had been sleeping beside her, but when she woke up he wasn't breathing. When medics arrived, they attempted life-saving measures on the boy and transported him to Stroger Hospital, where he was pronounced dead an hour later. An autopsy revealed that the infant died from abuse. The child suffered a cerebral hematoma and a linear skull fracture on the right side of his head, and the injuries were deemed inconsistent with Lauren's accounts of the events. Authorities allege that Lauren intended to seriously injure or kill the infant by throwing him onto the floor. At 5:45 p.m. on Tuesday the 3rd of June, police went to Lauren's home and arrested her. She's charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, and she was booked into the Cook County Jail. On Friday the 6th of June, Lauren was hospitalized for an undisclosed condition and was unable to attend a detention hearing at the Layton Criminal Courthouse. A former security guard for the Brighton Central School District in Perry, New York has been arrested. Authorities said that a Facebook group called Decoys Making a Difference went to the Perry police station and turned over a binder that contained a chat log between 54-year-old Christopher Curvin and who he believed was a 14-year-old girl. Police say in the chat log, Christopher asked the teen to send inappropriate photos and expressed wanting to teach the female lessons about her body. On the 6th of June, Christopher went to Crosby's convenience store and gas station at 2 South Center Street in Perry, New York to meet the 14-year-old Decoy. He was interviewed by an investigating officer and ultimately confessed to the conversations he had with the girl who he believed was 14 years old. He was arrested and charged with first-degree disseminating indecent material to minors. He's scheduled to appear in Perry Village Court on the 8th of July. 42-year-old Joseph Derek Hines is behind bars accused of committing 3 robberies at 2 financial institutions in Louisville, Kentucky. Joseph was a suspect of the 5th of May robbery of Republic Bank at 5125 New Cut Road, as well as the 21st of May and the 5th of June robberies of Allen and Federal Credit Union at 4700 Southern Parkway. In each case, the suspect handed a note to the teller demanding cash. At least one of the notes read, "This is not a joke." Joseph was arrested on the 5th of June after detectives conducting surveillance on a vehicle registered to a family member observed it driving and parking near the credit union. Joseph was seen getting into the vehicle shortly after the robbery. At the time of his arrest, Joseph was wearing the same pants and shoes seen in the surveillance footage from the robbery. A search of the vehicle uncovered a large amount of cash stuffed into the front passenger seat. Additional searches led investigators to items linking Joseph to several other robberies. He's charged with first-degree robbery and remains held at the Louisville Metro Corrections on a $100,000 bond. He's set to appear in court for a preliminary hearing on the 16th of June. 52-year-old William Joseph Otto was behind bars for fatally shooting his 39-year-old fiancée. At 1:23 p.m. on Monday the 19th of May, authorities responded to an apartment in the 5200 block of Parr Drive in Denton, Texas to complete a welfare check. After the caller reported a fetid stench coming from the premises. When officers arrived, they entered the residence and found the decomposing remains of a woman, later identified as 39-year-old Lavera Waddell. Police said she appeared to have suffered a traumatic injury to her head. Investigators found evidence at the scene that showed someone used cleaning supplies to try and scrub away blood from the floor and walls. Items were also discovered that were allegedly used to mask the smell. Detectives learned that Lavera lived at the apartment with her fiancé, 52-year-old William Joseph Otto. Witnesses reported seeing William speaking with Lavera on the 6th of May before she disappeared. During the investigation, detectives discovered evidence of William purchasing cleaning supplies at multiple locations on the 13th of May. On the 2nd of June, authorities located Joseph about 150 miles away at a motel in Mount Pleasant and took him into custody. While questioned, William told detectives that on the 6th of May, Lavera ran at him with a knife while the two were arguing, and he said that he shot her once in the head with a shotgun in self-defense and later cleaned up the apartment. He said he chose not to call police because he did not want to talk about the incident with anyone. When asked why he cleaned the crime scene, he explained that he wanted to lay with his fiancee's body. He explained that he laid next to her body for about 3 days and lived in the apartment with her body for over a week, but finally left because of the smell. Police believe William stayed with the body from the 6th of May until the 14th of May, when witnesses reported seeing that his car was gone. William's charged with murder and tampering with evidence, and he remains held at the Denton County Jail on a $160,000 bond. Police are investigating a domestic-related shooting that left 2 family members dead. At 5:39 p.m. on Sunday the 8th of June, authorities responded to a residence in the 1200 block of Ross Street in Mobile, Alabama, where they discovered 2 people dead inside with gunshot wounds. The deceased have been identified as 52-year-old Tracy McDuffie and his son 25-year-old Brandon McDuffie. The investigation revealed that Brandon shot his mother at least 10 times during a domestic dispute. Tracy's older son, 29-year-old Brent McDuffie, then shot Brandon in self-defense after his younger brother shot towards him. The nature of the dispute remains unclear. Brent remained on scene and is said to be cooperating fully with investigators. No charges have been filed at this time as detectives continue to gather evidence and interview witnesses. Mobile police said that the death of Tracy is abated by the death of Brandon, and the death of Brandon will be presented to a grand jury. The investigation remains ongoing. A 22-year-old woman has died after she and her mother were stabbed at an apartment complex. At around 6:30 p.m. on Sunday the 8th of June, authorities responded to an apartment complex at 110 Long Street in Mobile, Alabama on reports of a disturbance. When officers arrived on scene, they found 2 women with injuries. One was life-threatening. The pair were transported to a local hospital, where one of the women succumbed to her injuries a short time later. The deceased woman was identified as 22-year-old Jordan Jones. During the investigation, detectives learnt that Jordan and her mother were at the location retrieving Jordan's belongings when an argument ensued with a former roommate. The argument turned physical, and the roommate armed herself with a knife to defend herself, ultimately stabbing the women. Authorities have not yet released the identity of the mother and the roommate alleged to have stabbed the two women. Mobile Police Department said that the case will be presented to a grand jury to determine what charges, if any, will be levied. The investigation into the matter continues. 36-year-old Lydia Ginger is accused of using a pillow to smother her children in a hotel room. At 10:58 a.m. on Sunday the 8th of June, authorities responded to Capitol Plaza Hotel and Convention Center at 415 West McCartney Street in Jefferson City, Missouri, after a boy under the age of 12 called 911. The child reported that his mother had tried to strangle him and his 4 siblings by smothering them with a pillow. He said they locked themselves in the bathroom to get away from their mother. The 911 operator reportedly heard yelling in the background. When officers arrived, they found Lydia in the hallway outside the hotel room. She was highly intoxicated and taken into custody. When officers spoke to the boy who called 911, he said he saw Lydia try to smother their 3-month-old sibling while saying if one dies, they all die. He said he fought with his mother to stop her from suffocating his siblings. Another child under the age of 8 told officers that Lydia had tried to smother them with a pillow. While questioned by detectives, Lydia said that she passed out due to postpartum depression and couldn't remember the incident. She admitted that there was a disturbance between her and their children and said she had snapped. She did not try to deny the suffocation attempts, stating that if her children said it happened, then it probably did. A search of the hotel room revealed several empty alcohol bottles and 4 pillows on the floor. Lydia is being charged with abuse, 4 counts of domestic assault, and 3 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. She remains held at the Cole County Jail without bond. The whereabouts of the children's father or fathers remain unclear. The investigation into the matter continues. 45-year-old Jennifer Cataldo is behind bars after she fatally attacked her 66-year-old mother, Leslie Cataldo. At around 7:40 p.m. on Wednesday the 4th of June, authorities responded to an apartment in the 3600 block of Crooks Road in Royal Oak, Michigan, after Leslie called police reporting that her daughter was experiencing a mental health crisis and needed to be taken to the hospital. Authorities detected signs of a struggle while speaking with her daughter. Inside the apartment, officers found Leslie unresponsive on the floor with a life-threatening neck wound. She was transported to a hospital for emergency surgery, but died the next day. Jennifer was taken into custody at the scene without incident, and she was booked into the Oakland County Jail. On Friday the 6th of June, Jennifer was arraigned in the 44th District Court on a first-degree murder charge, which carries a penalty of life in prison. Jennifer pleaded not guilty to the charge and she was denied bond. A probable cause hearing is scheduled for the 13th of June. 27-year-old Nigeria Thomas has been charged with neglect after a 4-year-old child was pulled from the bottom of a swimming pool in a near-drowning incident. At 5:08 p.m. on Friday the 6th of June, police responded to a 911 call near the 4100 block of North Haverville Drive in West Palm Beach, Florida, where they found first responders administering life-saving measures to a 4-year-old before transporting the young child to a nearby hospital, where the child's recovering. Following an investigation, authorities arrested Nigeria and she was booked into the Palm Beach County Jail. Witnesses reported that Nigeria was not actively supervising her child. At 10:34 p.m. on Saturday the 7th of June, Nigeria posted a $500 bond and was released from custody. 35-year-old Joseph Boatman is behind bars after his 21-month-old daughter Ansley Boatman died from being left in a hot car for hours. At around 2:30 a.m. on Sunday the 8th of June, Joseph picked up his daughter from a family member's home in Madisonville, Louisiana, and strapped her into a seat inside a car. He then went inside a nearby residence and failed to return to the vehicle. At just before noon, a family member found the toddler unresponsive inside the vehicle and called 911. Authorities said that Joseph had consumed multiple alcoholic beverages prior to retrieving the child. Joseph was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, and he was booked into the St. Tammany Parish Correction Center. St. Tammany Parish Sheriff Randy Smith said, "This is a devastating loss that no family ever wants to face. When a child is left in a vehicle, especially on a day when the heat index climbs above 100 degrees Fahrenheit The outcome can turn deadly in a matter of minutes. This case involved compromised judgment, and the result was heartbreaking, he said. An elementary school teaching assistant in Raleigh, North Carolina is accused of hitting a woman and threatening to stab her. 33-year-old Denisha Deming is charged with simple assault and communicating threats. The incident occurred on the night of Saturday, the 7th of June. Authorities said that Denisha entered a woman's home, struck her in the face multiple times, causing cuts and bruising, and threatened to stab the woman while holding a knife. The victim, identified as Jasmine Ramey, said that she and Denisha both have children with the same man, and that's what sparked the violence that night. "I'm just still in shock," Jasmine said. "I open my front door and she's standing there at the bottom. She walks up the steps and then barges her way into my home." Denisha was arrested and booked into the Wake County Jail that night, but has since posted a $2,000 unsecured bond. She's due back in court on the 17th of July. According to the Wake County Public School System's website, Denisha is an instructional assistant for exceptional children at the Leadmine Elementary School in Raleigh. Denisha has been employed at the school since August of 2024 and has since been suspended with pay while the district conducts an investigation. She's scheduled to appear in court on the 10th of July. The investigation into the matter continues. A man is behind bars and is accused of harassing a former neighbour for money before murdering her. On the 2nd of June, 56-year-old Derek Bullwinkle was taken into custody at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, Arizona, in connection with the death of 82-year-old Linda Jane Baran. He'd been extradited from Salt Lake City, Utah. At around 4:45 p.m. on the 11th of February, authorities responded to a residence in the area of Ellsworth and Baseline Roads in Mesa, Arizona, after concerned relatives contacted 911 and requested a welfare check on Linda. When officers arrived at the property, they found Linda's body in the backseat of her car in the garage of her home, with a fatal gunshot wound to her left side. Police determined that her hands were raised in a surrender position when she was shot, and her death was ruled a homicide. Furniture inside the front door of the home showed there was a struggle. During the investigation, they identified Derek Bullwinkle as the suspect. Authorities said that Derek and Linda had been neighbours, but he was evicted about 3 weeks before the murder. Detectives said that she was seen alive 2 days before, and that Derek had been aggressively asking her for money. At around 6:15 p.m. on the 9th of February, Derek was spotted parking his van about 100 feet from Linda's house just prior to the murder. A neighbour reported seeing him running from the home and driving off in his van just before 7 p.m. Detectives said that Derek's cell phone location put him at the scene of the crime. Investigators said that Derek went to an ATM and used Linda's debit card and PIN 9 times starting at around 7:15 p.m, roughly 20 minutes after the murder. He allegedly tried to withdraw $10,000, but completed a withdrawal for $4,000. Police did not say how they tracked him down to Utah or what he was doing there. Derek was booked into the Maricopa County Jail on charges of first-degree murder, kidnapping, armed robbery and first-degree burglary. His bond was set at $1 million. His next court appearance is scheduled for the 28th of July. Derek was previously sued for consumer fraud in connection with a housing scam he conducted along with his wife. He was later convicted and served prison time for forgery and criminal impersonation. A Massachusetts woman remains held in a Vermont jail after allegedly stabbing another person. Police said that 31-year-old Courtney Machuga of Worcester, Massachusetts, stabbed 23-year-old Arianis Morales of Springfield, Massachusetts during a fight. The incident occurred at just before 11:30 a.m. on Monday the 9th of June at the Best Western Hotel on Blush Hill Road in Waterbury, Vermont. Police said the confrontation happened after two women arrived at the hotel looking to fight a guest. A hotel employee called 911 after witnessing Courtney stab Arianis and reported saying that her insides were coming out. Medics rushed Arianis to a hospital in a serious condition. A police officer arrived on scene and found Courtney standing next to a vehicle with two men. One of the men told police that the victim was his ex-girlfriend and that she had come from Massachusetts to jump Courtney, his current girlfriend. Courtney told the officer that Arianis had been harassing her and there had been ongoing issues between them in Worcester. She said she had been receiving messages from an unknown Instagram account believed to belong to Arianis, including perceived threats like "see you soon" and "today's going to be the day." Investigators noted that Arianis and another woman had checked into the Best Western on Sunday the 8th of June, with plans to stay until the next day. Courtney said that she believed they had come to the hotel to fight her. Courtney said that she and her partner had been in Vermont since the 5th of June for a couple's retreat, and they were accompanied by another man. When they realised Arianis was at the hotel, the three of them decided to leave. However, Courtney said Arianis found her and chased her back inside. Courtney said her partner tried to separate them, and during the struggle she grabbed a knife and stabbed Arianis. She claimed she didn't know where the knife came from or how she came to holding it, as the altercation happened quickly. Authorities said the hotel surveillance footage showed Courtney lunging at Arianis with a knife, while her partner attempted to intervene. About a minute after the stabbing, the footage reportedly showed Courtney laughing and sticking her tongue out. The knife used, a curved carambit blade with reddish-brown stains, was initially secured by hotel staff. However, Courtney briefly regained possession of it before her partner took it from her. Roughly 5 minutes after the stabbing, Arianis returned to the hotel and showed her injury to staff. Courtney was arrested and charged with attempted second-degree murder and aggravated assault. She was booked into the Chittenden Regional Correction Facility in South Burlington. On Tuesday the 10th of June, she appeared at the Chittenden County Criminal Court, where she pleaded not guilty and was ordered held without bond. If convicted, she faces up to life in prison. 48-year-old Starshima Jones is behind bars on multiple charges following an investigation into a suspicious death. At around 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday the 4th of June, authorities responded to the 2100 block of Fairway Drive in Columbia, South Carolina, after a man's body was found with burn injuries inside an apartment. Investigators said that earlier that day at around noon, Starshima allegedly approached the unidentified victim and robbed him at knife point, taking cash and personal belongings. Later that evening, she reportedly returned to the apartment to smooth things over with the victim. During the encounter, an altercation occurred and deputies say Starshima attacked and killed the man. Starshima is charged with murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, first-degree burglary, armed robbery, second-degree arson, destruction or desecration of human remains, possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and strong-arm robbery. She remains held at the Alvin S. Glen Detention Center. 39-year-old Abby Sovine is behind bars after she stabbed a man. On the morning of Wednesday, the 11th of June, authorities responded to a residence along Fraser Avenue in Glasgow, Kentucky on reports of a stabbing. When officers arrived, they located a man standing in the roadway suffering from a stab wound to his left arm. Officers determined that a domestic situation had taken place, and the suspect, identified as Abby, had stabbed the victim in the left arm with a knife. The man was transported to a local hospital for his injuries. Abby was arrested and charged with attempted murder, domestic violence, and booked into the Barron County Detention Center. Her court appearance is set for the 12th of June. 61-year-old Donald Rybold is behind bars accused of stabbing a woman during a domestic dispute. On the night of Tuesday the 10th of June, authorities responded to a residence in Wooldridge, Missouri on reports of a domestic disturbance. When officers arrived, they found the victim sitting in the back passenger seat of a vehicle with blood all over her right arm, with a deep cut that was about 2 inches long. She also had a gash on her eyebrow and was bleeding from her face. The victim told deputies that she was moving her possessions from a shared residence when Donald became upset and started attacking her. She said he accused her of stealing his phone and he began punching her. She then left the home to try to get into the vehicle to get away, but Donald stabbed her while she was in the car. She was transported to the University Hospital for treatment. Donald told deputies that the victim swung a box cutter at him first and he swung a knife, but claimed that he wasn't sure if he hit the victim. Donald was arrested and charged with first-degree domestic assault and armed criminal action. He remains held at the Cooper County Jail on a $250,000 bond. 38-year-old Justin Banter is accused of killing his pregnant girlfriend's unborn child by intentionally drugging her drink without her knowledge. According to the Parker County Sheriff's Office in Texas, in September of 2024, the victim said she found out she was pregnant. She told her then boyfriend Justin Banter about the pregnancy, and he allegedly offered her to cover the cost of an abortion and said they could order Plan C, commonly known as the abortion drug. The victim, however, said she wanted to keep the baby. The victim went for a sonogram on the 17th of October and learnt that the unborn child had a strong heartbeat, displayed good vital signs, and was said to be healthy by her doctor. The victim said that later that day she met Justin at a coffee shop in Tarrant County, Texas. The victim told authorities that she believed Justin had secretly added abortion-inducing pills to a drink without her knowledge or permission. On the 18th of October, the victim reportedly experienced extreme fatigue and heavy bleeding. Authorities said she went to an emergency room and lost her baby the following day. The victim alleged it was caused by drugs Justin had secretly put in her drink. Investigators interviewed Justin and collected his cell phone as evidence. Deputies allege that Justin, who works in IT for the US Department of Justice, later accessed the phone remotely and performed a reset, deleting information relating to the investigation. On Friday the 6th of June, Justin was arrested and booked into the Parker County Jail on an outstanding warrant out of Tarrant County on charges of capital murder and tampering with physical evidence. He was released later that day after posting a $520,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 26-year-old Jonathan Dominguez has been arrested after he drove while intoxicated, crashed his vehicle and killed a 4-year-old child in the same car. At 1:31 a.m. on the 8th of June, authorities responded to the 3300 block of South Mopac Expressway in Austin, Texas after multiple 911 calls were received about a single car crash. Callers reported that a car had flipped onto its roof and was in the ditch next to the highway. An officer arrived and found Jonathan in the driver's seat unconscious. The officer was able to get him out of the vehicle and he was taken to a local hospital. In the ambulance, medics said he began acting belligerent and smelled of alcohol. Witnesses told police they came to help when they saw the crash. They saw Jonathan trying to get the woman in the passenger seat out of the vehicle, but he was unable to, but he would not let the witnesses help. He then went back inside the SUV in the driver's seat before police arrived. A preliminary investigation revealed that Jonathan was driving with a woman in the passenger seat and 4 children in the back. The car left the road, struck a guardrail, and drove down an embankment on the right shoulder. The car then rolled onto its roof. One child, a 4-year-old, was killed in the crash. The woman had to be extracted from the vehicle. Her injuries as well as the other children inside the SUV are unknown. Jonathan told police he went river tubing in New Braunfels and then he hung out at a relative's house afterwards. He told police that he wasn't sure how the crash happened because he blacked out. He was arrested and charged with intoxication, manslaughter, and driving while intoxicated child passenger, and he was booked into the Travis County Jail. The investigation into the matter continues. 36-year-old Yolanda Bond is behind bars after she shot a teenage daughter. At 6:15 p.m. on Monday the 9th of June, authorities responded to an apartment in Maudina Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee, and reports of a person shot. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found a 17-year-old girl with a gunshot wound to her leg. Medics transported her to the Vanderbilt Pediatric Care for treatment. When questioned, the victim's mother, Yolanda, told police that there was a physical altercation leading up to the shooting. She said that she grabbed a gun and fired one shot through her daughter's closed bedroom door to place fear in her, but the bullet hit her daughter in the thigh. Yolanda was arrested and charged with aggravated assault and unlawful gun possession by a convicted felon. She remains held in the Davidson County Jail on a $30,000 bond. Yolanda has a prior felony conviction for aggravated assault with a weapon, as well as convictions for DUI, third offense, and theft. Darian Randall, a 31-year-old mother from Northeast Maryland, is accused of killing her 3-year-old daughter Nola Dinkins. She allegedly falsely reported the child was abducted and enlisted the help of a 44-year-old live-in boyfriend, Cedric Britton, to dispose of the girl's body in a vacant lot. During the late hours of Tuesday the 10th of June, Darian called police in Newcastle, Delaware, to report an armed kidnapping of her daughter Nola that happened early that night in Newark, Delaware, which prompted authorities to issue an Amber Alert. She said that around 7:15 p.m. that night, she was driving along the 500 block of Gender Road, and she pulled over to the side of the road because her daughter was upset, and she was trying to comfort her. She said that a man then approached her and held her at gunpoint before abducting her daughter. She described the person as a white man who was about 40 years old and bald with peach fuzz on his head. He was wearing a black hoodie, grey basketball shorts, and had a handgun. She also claimed that the man was in a vehicle driven by a blonde white woman. Officials released a description of the man as well as the vehicle he was in, a dark-coloured SUV, likely a Ford or Chevy, with rust or dirt on the exterior. Newcastle police asked Maryland State Police to go to Darian's last known address as part of standard procedure in missing children investigations to ensure the child was not mistakenly left at home and to corroborate Darian's report. Maryland State Police said troopers went to the house of Darian's boyfriend, 44-year-old Cedric Britton, at 352 Elk Nest Drive in northeast Maryland. Police said that troopers met with Cedric, who said that the child was not home and that she left with her mother Darian. Troopers noticed several cameras outside the house and asked to see the video. The video showed only Darian leaving the house and that the child was never observed on camera. Cedric agreed when troopers asked to search the house for Nola. Once inside, troopers did not find her but observed an odour of cleaning products, specifically bleach. Cedric also agreed for authorities to search his vehicle, inside which troopers found a child's blanket with reddish-brown smear consistent with blood. Cedric said the blanket did not belong to him and that he retrieved it from a stranger last summer while in the park. The following morning, the Amber Alert was cancelled after authorities in Delaware investigating the kidnapping report interviewed Darian. Authorities said she made a number of false and misleading statements. After some time, she admitted to lying about the kidnapping and that she falsely reported it to divert attention from her boyfriend. In recalling the chain of events, Darian told police that she struck the child 15 to 20 times with a belt at their home during daylight hours of Monday the 9th of June. Following the beating, Nola fell to the ground and stopped moving. Darian said she picked her up and realised she wasn't breathing. She told police she called for her boyfriend Cedric, who attempted CPR but realised the child was dead. Darian said that she and Cedric placed Nola's body in her car and drove around, but ended up back home. She said that she then put Nola's body in a blue suitcase and placed it on the basement stairs overnight. She later asked Cedric to take it somewhere. Darian told police that Cedric took the suitcase and later sent her a picture of a park. When police later interviewed Cedric at his home, he provided them of a map where the child's body was disposed. At 1:45 p.m. on Wednesday the 11th of June, investigators went to an area in June Drive in northeast Maryland, where remains were found in a suitcase. The human remains inside were described by police as those of an emaciated child, were found wrapped in plastic wrap. Cedric's house backs up to the vacant lot where he is accused of dumping the girl's body. At the time of the child's murder, Nola's biological father had been embroiled in a child custody battle with Darian. The father, who lives in Indiana, had tried to stop his toddler daughter leaving the state earlier this year. Darian was arrested and charged with first-degree and second-degree murder, child abuse resulting in death of a minor and false reporting. She remains jailed in Newcastle County, Delaware, awaiting extradition to Cecil County, Maryland. Cedric was arrested and charged with accessory to first and second-degree murder after the fact and failure to report child death. He appeared in the Cecil County District Court on the morning of Thursday the 12th of June and was released on a $75,000 bond. He was ordered to remain on home detention. The investigation into the matter continues. A 15-year-old boy has been charged as an adult following a homicide investigation. At just after 8:30 p.m. on Sunday the 8th of June, authorities responded to the 900 block of Camellia Street in Cambridge, Maryland on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a man laying outside of a vehicle in a driveway with a gunshot wound to his head. Officers attempted life-saving measures until medics arrived and transported him to a local hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The victim was identified as 23-year-old Ellison Ilian of Seaford. At the scene, detectives found a handgun and other evidence stemming from the incident. During the investigation, authorities identified 15-year-old Ja'Kai Wilson as a shooting suspect. Detectives are working to identify multiple additional accomplices involved in the incident. Police said that video footage showed a large number of community members converged on the area surrounding the victim and never rendered any type of aid. Several witnesses were also reportedly seen going into the victim's vehicle and taking items from it, as well as what appeared to be taking items from the victim as he laid there. On the evening of Tuesday the 10th of June, police initiated a traffic stop on a vehicle on Feather Drive at Stone Boundary in Cambridge, Maryland, and located Ja'Kai in the back seat. He was arrested without incident and charged with first and second-degree murder, along with multiple additional offences. He remains held at the Dorchester County Jail without bond. 38-year-old William Triplett will spend almost 6 years behind bars for shooting a man during an altercation. On the afternoon of Thursday the 12th of June, William appeared in the Jackson County Court in Oregon and was sentenced to 70 months in prison after he pleaded no contest to first-degree assault, unlawful use of a weapon and felon in possession of a firearm. William has also been sentenced to 3 years of post-prison supervision. The charges stem from a shooting incident that occurred at 1:30 p.m. on the 7th of May at Hawthorne Park near Bear Creek Greenway, in the vicinity of 8th Street in Medford, Oregon. Authorities said that William and his victim knew each other and got into a verbal fight that escalated into a physical confrontation. William then shot the man multiple times and fled the scene on foot. Based on witness accounts and description of the suspect, William was located in the area of Tinseltown and Medford Center within 15 minutes, and he was taken into custody. Medics performed life-saving measures on the victim, and he was transported to a local hospital and later airlifted to Portland in a critical condition. William will also be charged with murder if his victim dies within a year of the shooting. William has a handful of prior charges, including first-degree theft in September of 2022 for a one-wheel electrical board valued at $1,000 or more, misdemeanor charges in March 2023 for discarding refuse within 100 yards of state waters, and misdemeanor unlawful possession of methamphetamine in January 2025. 34-year-old Emmanuel Huffman is accused of breaking into a woman's home and abusing her. On the 15th of November 2024, authorities responded to a house in Davis, West Virginia, after a woman called 911 wanting to report a sexual assault that happened the previous night. After arriving at the caller's home, police and advocates for the woman's aid began questioning the victim regarding the incident. The woman said she heard the front door of her residence come open, and when she got out of bed she visually identified her assailant as Emmanuel Huffman. She said that Emmanuel had entered the house without permission or consent and began coming at her while removing his pants. She said that she attempted to run around Emmanuel, but that he grabbed her by the hair on the back of her head, pulled her onto a couch in the living room and sexually assaulted her. She said that Emmanuel got her into her bedroom and proceeded to put her into her bed. In doing so, she said that she smacked her head on the headboard, becoming dazed to the point she believed she received a concussion. She told police that Emmanuel continued to assault her, and that the incident and its entirety lasted for approximately 30 to 45 minutes. During the assault, the victim told police that Emmanuel kept saying he was Jesus Christ, and that he was going to save her soul. She said she asked Emmanuel to stop and not hurt her multiple times, and that he left the residence after the assault was over. On the 12th of June, Emmanuel was arrested and charged with second-degree sexual assault. He's been held at the Tygart Valley Regional Jail on a $70,000 cash-only bond. Tanisha Ann Eccles, a 27-year-old mother already on probation for the 2019 death of her infant daughter, is facing new neglect charges after allegedly leaving her 4 young children home alone for the better part of 2 weeks. The incident occurred at an apartment complex on Troy Avenue in Indianapolis, Indiana. At around 9:15 p.m. on Sunday the 8th of June, police responded to a call from Tanisha's mother, who reported receiving a troubling phone call from her 8-year-old granddaughter. The girl, crying, said she'd been left to care for her siblings, a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old, and had hardly seen her mother for the past 2 weeks. When officers arrived, they found the apartment door unlocked. Inside the home was littered with trash and half-eaten food, and there were no sheets on the children's beds. Police noted it appeared that no adult had been present for days. The 8-year-old told officers that Tanisha frequently left her home alone to care for the other children, including the baby, and that her attempts to reach her mother by phone went unanswered. At around 10 p.m, Tanisha returned to the apartment, claiming that she just stepped out to get medicine. However, after further questioning, she admitted that she had been gone for most of the day and often relied on her oldest child to watch the others, saying that she didn't like dragging them all out with her. When asked whether she thought it was safe to leave an 8-year-old girl in charge of a 4-month-old, she gave no answer. She also told police she had blocked most of her family members from contacting her to avoid arguments over her sexuality. The children were removed from the home and placed in the custody of their grandmother. On Monday the 9th of June, Tanisha was taken into custody on multiple neglect charges, and she was booked into the Marin County Jail where she remains held without bond. At the time of her arrest, Tanisha was still on probation for the 2019 death of her 6-month-old daughter, who died from multiple blunt force injuries. An autopsy revealed skull fractures, a severe burn on her arm, and fractures to her ribs and leg. Tanisha was initially charged with neglect resulting in death, but later pleaded guilty to neglect resulting in serious bodily injury in July of 2023. Despite prosecutors recommending prison time, she received a sentence of 2 years home detention followed by 2 years of probation. 24-year-old Robert Babin is behind bars after he struck his mother in the head several times with a hammer during an argument. At just after 6 p.m. on Wednesday the 11th of June, authorities responded to a residence at 18739 Holly Way in Houston, Texas on report of a woman attacked. When officers arrived, they found a 61-year-old woman in the backyard bleeding from the head, barely breathing and unable to speak. She was airlifted to a nearby hospital in a serious condition, where she remained the following day. Authorities said that the victim's son Robert had confessed to the crime to a friend on a gaming platform right after the violence. The Harris County Sheriff's Office said they got a call from Robert's friend at around 6 p.m. that evening. He told them he had noticed a string of 2-hour-old messages from Robert on a gaming app, confessing to the hammer attack that read, "I'm in trouble and I need your help. I just assaulted my mother with a hammer. I got angry. I don't know what to do. I can't go to prison. I have to get rid of the hammer and destroy the evidence before police get there. I don't want to end up on death row. I hit her a few times on the head and the side. She's barely breathing." During the investigation, Robert showed up at the crime scene. Authorities said that Robert initially told police that he left his mother napping at the house while he went to the store, and returned to be confused by the police presence. Robert was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and remains held at the Harris County Jail on a $150,000 bond. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years in prison. 35-year-old Angel Ramos Arce is behind bars for slashing another man with a machete. The incident occurred on Monday the 9th of June, outside Circle K convenience store at 4692 West Orlo Bronson Memorial Highway in Kissimmee, Florida. An employee said that Angel came into the store and began yelling at her, so she called her brother for help. The brother and the employee's boyfriend both showed up, with the boyfriend stepping between the brother and Angel. When he did so, Angel promptly punched him in the face. Angel ran to his truck to grab a machete to intimidate the Circle K employee's brother and boyfriend, because they were significantly bigger than him, causing the two men to take off running. Angel followed them, and once he caught up, he slashed the brother's arm, which he said was accidental. He said he felt bad for having cut the man, so he told him to get in his truck so they could go to the hospital. The Circle K employee identified the suspect's truck to deputies, who followed it to a nearby hospital. There they found the victim's blood and the machete inside the truck, and he was arrested. Angel was charged with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and aggravated battery causing bodily harm, and he was booked into the Osceola County Jail. A couple have been arrested after leaving their teen daughter home alone with a house full of dead animals while they went on vacation. On the 27th of May, police and animal control were called to a home at 114 Park Drive in Union, South Carolina. At the home, officers spoke with a 17-year-old girl who lived there. The team put her mother on the phone and gave officials permission to enter. Inside, officers found 3 living dogs, 39 living cats, and several dead cats throughout the home. Officers noted that there was animal feces everywhere. Outside the residence, 20 more dead cats were found in a freezer that did not have any power. Authorities said that 41-year-old Alicia Capps and 34-year-old Justin Capps left the teen at home by herself while they went to Florida. On the 10th of June, Alicia and Justin were arrested after they returned back from Florida. They were booked into the Union County Jail on charges of unlawful neglect of a child and 3 counts of ill treatment of animals, and were both given $25,000 bonds. A 58-year-old employee at a tri-state group home is accused of beating a patient at a group home in Cincinnati, Ohio. That patient is also the employee's stepson. James Hanser reportedly grabbed the autistic nonverbal man, who had several other disabilities, by the arm and threw him across the room onto a couch. He then punched the man 5 times and tried to knee him, causing a bloody nose and other visible injuries. On the 12th of June, James was arrested and charged with abuse, endangerment and failing to provide care to a patient, and he was booked into the Hamilton County Jail. On the morning of the 14th of June, James appeared at the Hamilton County Court when 2 investigators spoke at his arraignment. They said a video shows James did not retreat or call for help before assaulting the victim. They also said that James tried to cover up the abuse and falsified information. James's attorney said that the victim had several behavioural issues and that James had devoted himself to caring for him as an employee at the group's home. The attorney also said that no one else will care for him. A judge set James's bond at $12,000. His next court appearance is scheduled for the 23rd of June. 24-year-old LaCrystal Matthews is behind bars following the death of a 2-month-old infant. At 2:34 p.m. on Saturday the 14th of June, authorities responded to the Sunbridge Inn at 46 Dalloway Road in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, after receiving a report of an unresponsive infant. When officers arrived on scene, they located the child and immediately called for emergency medical assistance. The infant was transported by ambulance to Jefferson Regional Medical Center, but despite efforts from medical staff, the child was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Medical personnel noted that the infant had severe bruising and showed signs of malnourishment. The child's condition prompted the involvement of the Criminal Investigation Division. Detectives conducted interviews and gathered evidence at the scene, ultimately leading them to suspect LaCrystal being responsible for the infant's death. LaCrystal was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, and she was booked into the Jefferson County Jail. 34-year-old Craig Banks and 30-year-old Peyton Gregory have been arrested after they were allegedly recorded at a bar giving their baby beer. On the evening of Tuesday the 3rd of June, authorities responded to the Old Chicago Pizza and Tap Room at 215 Fisher Crossing Drive in Sharpsburg, Georgia. The deputies were dispatched after the restaurant manager called law enforcement about a couple that were sitting at the bar who'd been serving alcohol to a 1-year-old child. The manager reportedly noted that there was surveillance footage of the couple giving the child alcohol. Upon arriving at the scene, first responders made contact with the manager, who pointed out Craig and Peyton in the parking lot. Deputies then approached the couple, noting that there was a distinct odour of alcohol coming from Craig. When asked about the manager's allegations about giving the child beer, the couple initially denied there was any truth to the claim. Craig became aggressive, swore and said, "My baby is 1. Why would I do that?" Peyton, who was holding the toddler, allegedly said that she and Craig had not been drinking at all, claiming that what the manager saw was her giving the child a sip of tea she was drinking. However, deputies reported that the video footage from inside the restaurant contradicted the couple's claims. In the footage, Craig allegedly appeared to be sitting at the bar and waiting for the bartender to turn his back to him. When the bartender turned around, Craig would allegedly sneak the toddler sips of beer. Peyton, who was holding the child, was allegedly seen laughing each time. The couple did this about 6 times, authorities said. They then put the toddler in a high chair and allegedly continued giving the child beer and laughing. After viewing the footage, Peyton allegedly admitted what happened. "I wasn't thinking and I made a dumb decision," she told police. Craig and Peyton were arrested and each charged with 1 count of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. During the arrest, Craig was confrontational with police, telling them he was going to urinate in the police car. They were booked into the Coweta County Jail, and the child was placed in the custody of a grandparent. A 4-year-old girl died after her mother's boyfriend shot at her, her mother and her siblings. At around 10 p.m. on Saturday the 14th of June, 26-year-old Jovian Smith of Davenport, Iowa, was involved in a fight with his 41-year-old girlfriend from Illinois. The two were having a verbal altercation while the woman was driving to a family member's home they were visiting in Nashville, Tennessee. During the fight, Jovian threw his girlfriend's phone out the window and grabbed the steering wheel of a Dodge minivan in an attempt to cause it to crash. His girlfriend safely stopped the vehicle on the side of the road along Westchester Drive in Madison, Tennessee, before Jovian pulled out a pistol and began firing at her. The woman was struck multiple times and she ran to nearby homes for help. Jovian then turned to her 5 children and started firing shots at them. 4 of the 5 children were struck multiple times. All 5 were taken to the Vanderbilt Pediatrics, where a 4-year-old girl died as a result of her injuries. 2 of the other children, ages 7 and 1, are in a critical condition. After firing at the children, Jovian, who was still armed with a pistol, started to chase his girlfriend as she was seeking assistance at nearby homes. Officers with the Madison precinct arrived at the scene and apprehended him. The woman was taken to Skyline Medical Center, where she was hospitalized with serious injuries. Jovian is charged with 1 count of homicide, 5 counts of attempted homicide, 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and 1 count of aggravated burglary. He remains held at the Davison County Jail with bond denied. 21-year-old Jatora Clemens is accused of killing her 8-month-old son Cortland Clemens. On the 4th of February, Hooks police officers and deputies with the Bower County Sheriff's Office responded to a residence for a medic assist call at 100 Kennedy Circle in Hooks, Texas. Upon arrival, police found emergency medical responders performing CPR on an infant child, but they are unable to revive him. Jatoria was allegedly staying with a relative at the time. Jatoria told investigators that about 2 weeks before her baby died, she lived at 4624 Elizabeth Street in Texarkana, Texas. She said that she plunged her infant into a bath of scalding water, causing severe burns. She said that she was frustrated with her son because he had soiled his diaper. The results of the autopsy listed Cortland's cause of death as thermal injury scalding, and his death was ruled a homicide. Following the child's death, Jatoria made several posts on Facebook. "Rest in love, my baby. I love you so much and I miss you so much, my heart is so broken," she said. "I will always think about you. Rest in heaven, my love." On Friday the 13th of June, the Hooks Police Department obtained arrest warrants for Jatoria on charges of injury to a child and manslaughter. However, she remains at large. The investigation into the matter continues. 53-year-old Rebecca Mitchell was behind bars accused of stabbing her husband in the chest. At 1:09 p.m. on Friday the 13th of June, authorities received a call from Columbus VA Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio, about a man who walked into the hospital with a stab wound. He reportedly said it happened during a robbery in an alley behind his house nearby on the 900 block of Seymour Avenue. Columbus officers went to his home to find where it happened and encountered the victim's wife, Rebecca Mitchell, who told police she knew her husband had been stabbed and told them she did it. She later repeated the admission to detectives and said she stabbed her husband during an argument. They recovered a knife she told them she used at the home. The man is in a critical condition and is not expected to survive. Rebecca was arrested and charged with felonious assault, and she was booked into the Franklin County Jail. On Saturday the 14th of June, a Franklin County Municipal Court judge set her bond at $500,000. 29-year-old Tony Ray is accused of choking his pregnant girlfriend and fatally shooting 26-year-old Jaquan House after he showed up to intervene. At 11:57 p.m. on the 10th of June, authorities responded to Tony's apartment along Walker Terrace in Nashville, Tennessee, on reports of a domestic disturbance. When officers arrived, they found Jaquan critically wounded on the sidewalk with a gunshot wound. They rendered aid until medics arrived, however he died at the scene. Tony was also present armed with a handgun. Officers detained him and recovered the weapon. During the investigation, Tony's pregnant girlfriend reported that they had argued prior to the shooting and that he physically assaulted her. She then called a relative who came to the apartment with Jaquan to intervene. The two of them, along with a female witness, all confronted Tony at the front porch of his apartment building, where an argument ensued over the alleged assault. Tony then shot Jaquan without further provocation. Tony is charged with criminal homicide and 3 counts of aggravated assault, 2 involving his girlfriend and 1 involving the female witness. 35-year-old Amber Nicole Wagner is facing charges after police said a young child was found wandering alone outside and drugs were discovered inside her home. On the 12th of June, authorities responded to the area of 1312 Delaware Avenue in Lynn Haven, Florida, on a report of a small child that was found unsupervised and wandering. Concerned citizens contacted 911 after observing the child hiding and playing in the bushes of a nearby home. Due to prior investigations by Lynn Haven Police Department narcotics team at this location, officers and investigators conducted a welfare check at the residence. The initial welfare check revealed another unsupervised small child present in the home, while the mother was asleep and unaware of the child's location. During the search of the home, authorities recovered methamphetamine and associated paraphernalia. The child's mother, Amber Wagner, was arrested and charged with possession of methamphetamine, possession of drug paraphernalia and child neglect. She was booked into the Bay County Jail. The Department of Children and Families was notified and is actively involved in the case. On Thursday the 12th of June 2025, a 42-year-old Fort Wayne, Indiana man was sentenced to 12 years in prison for sexual misconduct with a minor. Ian Storr was charged after the girl told police he assaulted her on Thanksgiving Day in 2023. She told investigators that he held a knife against her throat and said not to tell anyone or else he'll kill her. He was initially charged with sexual misconduct with a minor with deadly force, a level 2 felony. However, he accepted a plea deal last month. The agreement called for that charge to be dismissed, with him pleading guilty to sexual misconduct with a minor, a level 4 felony. His 12-year sentence, handed down after Allen Superior Court Judge Fran Gale accepted the plea agreement, is the maximum sentence for the charge. Ian has 1 year of jail credit. 43-year-old Kenneth Ray Cook of MacArthur, West Virginia, is behind bars on allegations he had a non-consensual incestuous relationship with his daughter, which resulted in the birth of 3 children. Law enforcement said these children were found to be suffering from neglect. In early June of 2025, Kenneth was indicted by a grand jury in Raleigh County on 149 counts of gross neglect of a child, multiple counts of incest, abuse and neglect charges. He remains held at the South Regional Jail on a $500,000 cash bond. He's due back in court on the 24th of June for a formal arraignment. 37-year-old Dexter Fuller is behind bars, accused of fatally shooting his sister during a family argument. At around 7 p.m. on Saturday the 14th of June, authorities responded to the 4300 block of Candlelight Drive in Columbia, South Carolina on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they located an unresponsive woman laying in the grass next to a vehicle with gunshot wounds. Officers started CPR until medics arrived and took the woman to a local hospital, where she was pronounced dead. The victim was identified as Margaret Gibson. Deputies attempted to find the suspect shooter but were unsuccessful. On scene, deputies learnt that there had been a verbal altercation between family members when Dexter shot his sister and fled from the location. It's unclear what the argument was about. While deputies were still conducting their investigation, Dexter then returned to the scene and was placed under arrest. Dexter's charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime and is held at the Richland County Jail with bond denied. 32-year-old Charles Crane is behind bars, accused of firing a weapon at another person during an altercation in the parking lot of a vape shop. At just before 9 p.m. on Friday the 13th of June, authorities responded to Vape World at 110 West Main Street in Franklin, Tennessee, and reports of shots fired. Investigators determined that 2 men had been involved in an altercation in the parking lot when Charles discharged a firearm. The person who was targeted in the shooting was not injured. Charles then fled the scene in a dark-coloured vehicle, and authorities issued a be on the lookout alert for the suspect. Authorities described the suspect as a white male with some facial hair and multiple tattoos. They said he was last seen wearing black shorts, a black hat and a black tank top. On the afternoon of Sunday the 15th of June, after receiving multiple tips from the community, officers located and arrested Charles and charged him with attempted criminal homicide and aggravated assault. He was booked into the Williamson County Jail with bond set at $825,000. 25-year-old Seth Martin is behind bars, accused of fatally stabbing his fiancée, 33-year-old Mallory Myers. At 3:41 p.m. on Friday the 13th of June, authorities responded to a residence at 6110 Hackett Street in Waterford Township, Michigan, after Seth called 911 stating that he'd just stabbed his fiancée multiple times. Seth told dispatch that she's right next to me and that she's not doing good, and described stabbing her in the neck, chest and the arm a couple of times. When the dispatcher asked Seth to apply pressure on the victim's wounds, he said he couldn't because there were too many. Authorities said that Seth and Mallory had been lying on their bed, looking at the phone when he attacked her. He assaulted her about 10 times. When officers arrived on scene, they were met by Seth at the door, who had blood on his arms, and he was taken into custody. When officers entered the premises, they found Mallory unresponsive on the bedroom floor with multiple stab wounds. Medics rushed her to a local hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Officers located the suspected murder weapon in a sink inside the home. During questioning, Seth told detectives that he felt like Mallory was driving a wedge between him and his roommate, and that he fantasized about killing his fiancée early in their relationship. He said he stabbed her in the neck first because he wanted it to take less time, and he recalled after he stabbed her saying, "Baby, I'm dying. Call the cops." Seth was charged with first-degree murder and booked into the Oakland County Jail. On Monday the 16th of June, Seth appeared in the Oakland County Court for his arraignment, where the judge denied him bond. His next court appearance is scheduled on the 27th of June for a probable cause hearing. If convicted of the charge, Seth faces up to life in prison. Kentucky police have arrested 3 people after they discovered children and a disabled adult living in deplorable conditions. 30-year-old Amy Nichols is charged with abuse, neglect and animal cruelty. 38-year-old Robert Ransell and 26-year-old Matthew Harden are charged with abuse and complicity in neglect and animal cruelty. At around 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday the 10th of June, authorities responded to a home in the 500 block of Alart Avenue in Harrodsburg, Kentucky as part of a child neglect investigation. Police reported that 3 children under the age of 12 and an adult with a mental capacity equivalent to that of a 6th grader were residing in the premises. When officers arrived on scene, they entered the residence and were met by a pungent stench of feces and ammonia. Police said that the floor was completely covered in feces, and all surfaces were covered in rotting food and other garbage. The refrigerator had a lock hanging from it, and contained rotten food and cockroaches, and none of the food observed in the home appeared to be safe to eat. One child told police he had not had lunch or dinner, and had only eaten cereal. 3 dogs and 5 cats were also living inside the home. Officers reported exposed human and animal feces throughout the residence. The home was determined to be unfit for habitation and posed a risk of serious illness or death. Another occupant stated that the children are frequently sick due to the condition of the home. Officers described it as the worst living conditions they've ever seen. All 3 suspects remain at the Jessamine County Jail without bond. They have a court date scheduled for the 26th of June. The investigation into the matter continues. Foster mother 59-year-old Juna Bostic is behind bars after an infant girl in her care died in a hot vehicle. At 6:04 p.m. on Monday the 9th of June, authorities responded to a home along Charlotte Street in Hamlet, North Carolina, on reports of a medical emergency. When officers arrived, they found a 7-month-old child unresponsive and began life-saving measures. Medics arrived on scene and transported the child to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. It was determined that the baby died due to excessive heat. Authorities said that Juna left her foster daughter in a van for an undetermined amount of time when temperatures reached as high as 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Juna was arrested and charged with involuntary manslaughter and abuse. She remains held at the Richmond County Jail on a $500,000 bond. 27-year-old Jose Montoya and 26-year-old Judith Ramirez are behind bars accused of shooting a woman in the back of the head while firing at a security guard who escorted them out of the restaurant. And just after midnight on Sunday the 15th of June, authorities responded to Tequila Town Bar at 717 North White Station Road in Memphis, Tennessee, and reports of an aggravated assault. Upon arrival, officers spoke with a male who'd been working security at the time of the incident. The security guard informed police that the bar's owner had told him that Jose was acting irate inside the business, and the security guard said he approached Jose to try to calm him down. He became aggressive toward him and he escorted him outside with his wife Judith. Upset, Jose went to his car, grabbed a gun and fired shots at the security guard. The security guard returned gunfire in self-defense. During the shooting, Jose reloaded his firearm multiple times and continued shooting at the security guard. Husband and wife then left the area in a grey 2025 Kia Sportage with Tennessee license plates. Staff at the bar informed police that a female patron had been shot in the back of the head during the confrontation. She was transported to a local hospital in a critical condition. In addition to the victim injured, multiple cars in the area were struck by bullets fired by Jose. That same day, investigators were able to locate the couple after spotting their car in the driveway of the home along the 3000 block of Jossabet Lane. Several spent bullet casings were found inside the car, along with a black and green handgun on the bed of a 2022 Ram pickup truck on the property. Jose and Judith were both found inside the home and were taken into custody. During questioning, Judith gave conflicting statements, and that Jose refused to give a statement. A search warrant was issued for the home where the Kia was found. Police said that the suspected weapon used in the shooting was found there. After reviewing video footage from the shooting, Jose and Judith were both arrested. They were booked into the Shelby County Jail on charges of attempted first-degree murder, vandalism, and employment of a firearm with intent to commit a felony. Jose's bond's been set at $250,000, whereas Judith's bond has been set at $300,000. 33-year-old Paige Newell, an officer with the Anderson Police Department in South Carolina, has been arrested after allegedly pointing a gun at a woman and her children during a road rage incident. At around 5:45 p.m. on Sunday the 16th of June, police responded to a disturbance at mile marker 67 along Interstate 85 in Welford, South Carolina. Nearby, police encountered two vehicles at a parking lot at Nikita's on Greenville Highway, near Spartanburg Road. The occupant of one of the vehicles told police that Paige pointed a gun at her and her two children aged 12 and 3 during a road rage incident, and that Paige intentionally backed into a vehicle when they parked. Her children also said Paige had a gun. Paige denied pulling a gun, saying that as a police officer she knew better, and that she only backed into the other vehicle because she was blocked in. Paige was arrested and a gun was seized and returned to the Anderson Police Department. She was booked into the Spartanburg County Detention Center on a charge of presenting a firearm. On Monday the 17th of June, she was released on a personal recognizance bond. Anderson Police Chief Jim Stewart said that Paige has been placed on paid administrative leave. 24-year-old Justine Wilton of Hermitage, Tennessee has been charged with trafficking in drugs. At just before midnight on Friday the 13th of June, Justine was walking along Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, when she was stopped by law enforcement for possible drug activity. Officers found out she had an active warrant for her arrest out of Tennessee. After a search of her belongings, police found suspected fentanyl, marijuana, a hallucinogen, along with drug paraphernalia and an unknown residue. All the items were sent to the Kentucky State Police Lab for testing. Justine was arrested and charged with fugitive from another state, possession of a hallucinogen, possession of marijuana, public intoxication, trafficking fentanyl, and first-degree possession of a controlled substance. She currently remains held at the Christian County Jail with bond denied. 70-year-old Patrick Francis Mitchell has been charged after he allegedly urinated on over $10,000 worth of food at a warehouse chain. At 9:49 a.m. on the 30th of May, Patrick was observed urinating in an aisle at Sam's Club located in Lady Lake, Florida. A female customer used a cell phone to capture pictures of the alleged incident, and she then showed them to store employees. Store CCTV captured additional footage of the alleged incident. Authorities said that Patrick walked up to two pallets, faced the shelf, placed both hands in front of him below the belt line, and then stood there for several seconds, doing what appeared to be behavior consistent with urination. Footage also showed Patrick walking around the snack area of the store and sitting on patio furniture for about 10 minutes before paying for his items and leaving. Store managers later confirmed there was urine on the two pallets, which they say contained approximately 188 cans of Vienna sausage and 345 cans of Spam. Authorities said that store employees were forced to throw out contaminated cans, resulting in the loss of $10,584.84 in goods. A store manager was eventually able to provide police with Patrick's name and contact information based on details stored in Sam Club's membership portal. On the 4th of June, authorities responded to Patrick's home about 6 miles away in the 8200 block of Southeast 177th Winterthur Loop in the Villages and arrested him. He was booked into the Lake County Jail on charges of criminal mischief resulting in over $1,000 in damages and disorderly conduct. He was later released after posting a $3,000 bond. On the 10th of June, Patrick appeared at the Lake County Court where he pleaded not guilty to the charges. His next court date is scheduled for the 30th of June. 58-year-old Stephanie Powell is behind bars accused of stabbing a man in the back. On the night of Thursday the 12th of June, authorities responded to Venus Relax Inn at 3725 Mobile Highway in Pensacola, Florida on reports of a disturbance. When officers arrived on scene, they found a man in a motel room bleeding from several stab wounds to the back. The man was transported to a local hospital for his injuries. Meanwhile, Stephanie approached the officers and surrendered. Authorities said that Stephanie and the man were living at the motel and had been drinking throughout the night when they began arguing over Stephanie losing her job. The dispute quickly escalated, and Stephanie grabbed a knife and started stabbing the man in the back. Stephanie was charged with attempted homicide, and she was booked into the Escambia County Jail, where she remains held without bond. A Des Moines, Iowa man is behind bars for allegedly abusing 2 children he was living with in a Cedar Rapids residence. Authorities said that the abuse took place between the 8th of June 2021 and the 31st of July 2023. The suspect, 18-year-old Titus James Closter, would have been between the ages of 14 and 16 at the time. One victim was aged 6 to 9 between the years of abuse, while the other was 7 to 10. On Friday the 13th of June 2025, Titus was arrested and charged with 3 counts of rape. He remains held at the Linn County Jail on a $500,000 bond. A no-contact order has been issued, and a preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 24th of June. A Florida man is accused of leaving his toddler son to die inside a hot vehicle for over 3 hours. On the 6th of June, 33-year-old Scott Allen Gardner locked his 18-month-old son Sebastian in the back of a pickup truck in the heat for hours while he went to get a haircut, and then went to have some drinks at the Hanky Panky's Lounge in Ormond Beach, Florida. Medical examiners estimate the baby's body temperature reached 111 degrees Fahrenheit as he sat in the truck. Authorities said that when Scott left the bar and got into his truck, he found his son already dead. Instead of immediately calling 911, he drove to his mother's house and then called for help. But by that time, the child had already been dead for over an hour. Law enforcement agents attempted life-saving measures on the boy, but it was too late and he was pronounced dead. Authorities said that Scott gave multiple false accounts to police of the events leading up to his son's death, including that his son had a low-grade fever and that he eventually stopped talking and breathing. During the investigation, authorities determined that the toddler was left in his father's truck with no air conditioning. Investigators said that Scott had lowered the windows and had a small portable fan on, but it barely reached the child, leading to his death. Volusia County Sheriff Michael Chipwood said that following his son's death, Scott went out for more drinks with his mother. Sheriff Chipwood said, "I don't think there's a penalty on this earth that could ever fit for the crime that was committed here. It absolutely shocks the conscience for this, that this even happened. There's no reason whatsoever. This guy's nothing but a piece of shit. And I pray that his son is constantly in his vision, asking him, 'Dad, why did you do this to me? There's no logical reason why this little guy is dead,' he said." On Thursday the 19th of June, police tracked Scott down to his mother's home in Ormond Beach and he was arrested. Scott was booked into the Volusia County Jail on charges of aggravated manslaughter and neglect. On the afternoon of Friday the 20th of June, Scott appeared in the Volusia County Court where a judge denied him bond. A 40-year-old woman is accused of trying to beat her 6-year-old daughter to death with a hammer. At 12:49 p.m. on Thursday the 19th of June, authorities responded to a home at 2942 Wilson Avenue in Louisville, Kentucky on reports of a domestic disturbance. When officers arrived on scene, they entered the residence and found a 6-year-old girl with several blunt force injuries to her head. The child was rushed to Norton Children's Hospital with multiple skull fractures and a brain bleed, and she remains in a critical condition. The victim's mother, 40-year-old Zainab Abdi, told investigators that she frequently becomes extremely angry and has difficulty controlling herself. She also told officers that she became overly angry and struck her daughter in the head with a hammer an unknown amount of times. Authorities said that Zainab's son, whose name and age has not been disclosed, provided a similar account of the harrowing attack on his sister. During an interview with the suspect's son, he stated that while restraining her after the assault, she begged him to let me finish her while attempting to return to the victim. Zainab was arrested and charged with attempted murder, and she was booked into the Jefferson County Jail. On the morning of Friday the 20th of June, Zainab appeared in the Jefferson County Court where the judge set a bond at $500,000 and ordered her to not have any contact with any child. She has a preliminary hearing scheduled for the 30th of June. A 45-year-old woman is behind bars for fatally stabbing a 36-year-old man at a hotel. At 7:30 a.m. on Friday the 20th of June, authorities responded to the Extended Stay America in the 46,000 block of Waterview Plaza in Sterling, Virginia, on report of a stabbing. When officers arrived, they located the victim, 36-year-old Christopher Young, suffering from a stab wound. He was taken to a nearby hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. Deputies located the suspect, 45-year-old India Taylor, on scene, and she was taken into custody. India is charged with second-degree murder and stabbing in the commission of a felony. She remains held at the Loudoun County Adult Detention Center without bond. The motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A man is behind bars after dismembered body parts believed to be his wife's were found at his home. On Saturday the 15th of June, 56-year-old Charles Antoine Jr. was arrested and charged with desecration of human remains. The Florence County Sheriff's Office in South Carolina said what began as a missing persons case out of Brunswick County, North Carolina, turned into a death investigation. Loved ones reported Christy Ward and Charles missing from their North Carolina home last week. On Saturday the 14th of June, a Florence County deputy was checking the Lynch's riverboat landing at Riverside Cemetery Road when he saw the roof of a mostly submerged car. The South Carolina license plate was registered to Charles, who had another home at 976 Stillwater Road in Lake City, South Carolina. Deputies went to the home to conduct a property check, where they detected an unusual smell coming from the house, but no one was answering. They obtained a search warrant, and when entering the home they found Charles calmly sitting on the couch. Investigators then discovered dismembered human remains in plastic containers which were taped shut. Florence County Sheriff T.J. Joy said the remains are most likely those of Christy, but the Sheriff's Office is waiting for an official confirmation from an autopsy. Charles was taken into custody and he remains held at the Florence County Jail with bond denied. The investigation is ongoing, and additional charges are expected. 36-year-old Christopher Wozneski, an employee of Lowe's Home Improvement, is accused of fatally shooting his co-worker, 44-year-old Jeff Moeller. The incident occurred at 12:36 a.m. on Saturday the 14th of June, when police in Scranton, Pennsylvania received a report of a shooting at Lowe's, located on the border of Scranton and Dixon City. Christopher called police himself, admitting, "I'd like to report a shooting at Dixon City Lowe's. I was the person who did it." Officers arrived swiftly and detained Christopher near the store's front entrance. Inside, police found the victim, Jeff Moeller, laying on the floor in a pool of blood, surrounded by 4 bullet casings. He had sustained multiple gunshot wounds, including one across his back and 2 directly to his head. He was rushed to a local hospital, where he was pronounced dead. During a recorded interview with detectives, Christopher claimed that Jeff had been harassing him at work, and he felt no one addressed his complaints. He admitted to purchasing a Springfield 9mm semi-automatic handgun, specifically to shoot Jeff, and even practiced using it in his backyard. He told police his plan was to kill Jeff and then himself. He recounted approaching Jeff while he was working on a machine, shooting him in the chest without warning. When Jeff fell and pleaded for help, Christopher shot him twice more in the head and chest, stating that he didn't want Jeff to suffer. Investigators found a handgun unloaded near a shopping cart approximately 30 feet from Jeff's body, along with a live round and a magazine. Christopher also claimed he sent an email to Lowe's Management and Human Resources prior to the shooting, asserting the incident could have been prevented if the alleged harassment had been addressed. However, the store manager informed police that Christopher harassment complaints against Jeff had been investigated and deemed unfounded. Christopher was arrested and charged with felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 1st and 3rd degree murder charges. He remains held at the Lackawanna County Jail with bond denied. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 30th of June. Police are searching for the suspect responsible for the fatal shooting of 30-year-old LaJarvis Ruffin. The incident occurred at just after midnight on Thursday the 19th of June at the Park Springs apartment complex at 5610 Shore Road in Jackson, Mississippi. LaJarvis was changing the locks on his child's mother's apartment door because she was having issues with the father of her other child, and she was concerned that he may enter the premises uninvited. While he was doing this, LaJarvis's cousin heard gunshots and found LaJarvis had been shot outside the door, and 911 was contacted. First responders arrived and found LaJarvis unresponsive with multiple gunshot wounds. They attempted life-saving measures, however he was pronounced dead at the scene. Just a day prior to the shooting, LaJarvis posted on his Facebook page stating, "Trust get you killed, stay paranoid." No arrests have been made to date, as the investigation into the matter continues. An upstate New York woman has been arrested after allegedly sending naked selfies to a child. On Monday the 16th of June, Chemung County deputies arrested 22-year-old Anna Marie Milazzo of Elmira, New York, on charges of disseminating indecent materials to minors and endangering the welfare of a child. The investigation began on the 9th of June, after a resource officer in Chemung County received a complaint alleging Anna Maria was sending explicit images to a boy. Investigators said they learnt that Anna Maria sent nude photos of herself to a 14-year-old boy over a 3-month period. Anna Maria was an employee of the Boards of Cooperative Education Services, but has since been fired. The investigation into the matter continues. 54-year-old Larry Fitzgerald Williams is behind bars accused of fatally shooting 51-year-old Brian Lewis. At 1:44 p.m. on Saturday the 21st of June, authorities responded to a report of a shooting along the 1900 block of Delaware Street in Beaumont, Texas. When officers arrived, they found Brian Lewis unresponsive on his lawn with a gunshot wound. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. A neighbor reported that Brian was mowing his yard when a heavy-set black male on a motorcycle pulled up, shot him, and fled west along Delaware Street. After speaking to multiple witnesses and reviewing surveillance footage, authorities were able to determine that the suspect wore a dark-coloured helmet, light-coloured pants and blue gloves, and identified the suspect as Larry Williams. Authorities said the shooting was not random, alleging that Larry targeted Brian because he was cooperating in a criminal case against him. Larry was previously charged with aggravated assault for a 2024 attack on Brian, where he allegedly beat him with brass knuckles, leaving Brian in intensive care for a month with head and skull injuries. The trial for that case was set for July 2025. Authorities claim Larry made repeated threats, demanding Brian drop the charges or he will kill him, but Brian refused. At around 6:45 a.m. on Monday the 23rd of June, police located Larry in Jefferson County and arrested him. He is charged with first-degree murder and remains held at the Jefferson County Jail on a $10 million bond. A 35-year-old woman is behind bars after she allegedly stabbed a man. On the night of Monday the 23rd of June, authorities responded to the area of Noland Avenue and South 8th Street on reports of a stabbing. When officers arrived, they found a man suffering from a stab wound that he reportedly received during a domestic dispute. The man has since been hospitalized due to serious bodily injury. Authorities said that the suspect, 35-year-old Nicole Parks, allegedly took off before police arrived, leading officers on a brief foot chase. She was later arrested and booked into the Mesa County Jail on charges of first-degree assault, felony menacing, obstruction of a police officer, and domestic violence. A 33-year-old man is behind bars accused of fatally beating his 65-year-old mother. On Sunday the 22nd of June, authorities responded to a residence at 936 Park Circle in Opelousas, Louisiana, after neighbors reported a foul smell coming from the property. When officers arrived, they discovered human remains inside a trash can under the carport of the home. Investigators identified 33-year-old Aaron Lloyd of Opelousas as a suspect and located him at a residence in Crotch Springs. During an interview, Aaron reportedly confessed to injecting his mother, 65-year-old Lisa Lloyd, with methamphetamine and then beating her to death. Aaron was booked into the St. Landry Parish Jail on charges of first-degree murder, aggravated second-degree battery, obstruction of justice, failure to seek assistance, and distribution of Schedule II drugs. A 44-year-old man is behind bars accused of fatally beating his 36-year-old ex-girlfriend. On Wednesday the 18th of June, authorities responded to a medical call in Kellogg, Minnesota. A 911 caller reported a woman, 36-year-old Melissa Hunt, drove into the reporting party's driveway and had significant injuries to her face. She was missing multiple teeth and a portion of her jaw. When first responders arrived, Melissa told officials her ex-boyfriend, 44-year-old Craig Allen Haymeister, struck her with a stick near a boat launch in Kellogg, and she described his vehicle. She was transported to a local hospital, where she died from her injuries. Authorities located Craig's truck near a home in Olmsted County, as well as a 9mm round on the floor. The residents reportedly told police Craig arrived in a very frantic state and he said something bad happened. He allegedly told an occupant in the home that police would be coming before he fled on a motorcycle. The resident said she noticed her 9mm handgun was missing. Officers found Craig nearby after he climbed up a tree to avoid arrest, but officials took him into custody following an hours-long standoff. Craig remains held at the Wabasha County Jail on a second-degree murder charge, with bond set at $2 million. A 38-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting his 39-year-old ex-wife. At around 9:40 p.m. on Wednesday the 18th of June, authorities responded to the Desert Ridge Marketplace shopping mall in Phoenix, Arizona on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found a woman later identified as 39-year-old Jessica Shookers laying in the parking lot next to a pickup truck outside the AMC movie theater with multiple gunshot wounds. Police located a shotgun and a revolver near her body. She was unable to be saved and was pronounced dead at the scene. Witnesses told detectives that they saw a bald man sitting next to the door of the pickup truck before he shot the woman. That witness said he heard more gunshots after she was already on the ground. Police located the suspect, 38-year-old Justin Allen Creed, standing nearby, shirtless and stripped down to his underwear, and he immediately surrendered to officers. Authorities said that he had taken off his clothes so that police could see he was unarmed, stating that he was sorry for any trauma he may have caused. When detectives interviewed Justin, he refused to answer any questions about the shooting, but did say it involved his ex-wife, who was the mother of one of his children, and that he was retaliating for alleged past child abuse and infidelity. Authorities said that a woman who shares a child with Justin told officers he warned her about 3 months ago that he would not be coming home and that he would end up in jail. Another family member also cited increasingly odd and troubling behaviour, believed to be caused by a mental health condition. Justin was booked into the Maricopa County Jail on a first-degree murder charge, and he remains held on a $1 million bond. His next court appearance is on the 27th of June. 47-year-old Ronald Spites is behind bars for allegedly killing his girlfriend, 46-year-old Browan Williams, by deliberately driving into her. At 7:46 a.m. on Friday the 20th of June, authorities responded to a residence in the 1200 block of Corley Avenue in Beaumont, Texas on reports of a domestic disturbance. When officers arrived on scene, the premises was unoccupied. Through the course of the investigation, officers learnt that an argument had occurred between Ronald and Browan, which escalated and Ronald struck her with his vehicle. He then drove her to the Baptist Hospital, where she was later pronounced dead. Ronald was detained at the hospital, and following an interview with detectives, he was transported to the Jefferson County Jail and charged with murder. The investigation is ongoing. 38-year-old Jeremy Fancher and 21-year-old Destiny Campos are behind bars in connection to the suffocation death of their 4-month-old daughter Brooklyn Fancher. At around 1 p.m. on the 26th of May 2024, sheriff deputies and paramedics responded to a report at the Days Inn and Suites Motel, located at 7111 Rancho Mission Drive in Houston, Texas, where Brooklyn was found unresponsive in a dresser drawer and pronounced dead at the scene. Jeremy and Destiny, residents of the motel for over a year, reportedly placed Brooklyn in the drawer to sleep while using drugs, including methamphetamines found in the room. Sheriff deputies and paramedics stated that Destiny admitted Jeremy sealed the drawer with a towel to prevent the infant from opening it and to muffle her cries. Jeremy reportedly complained that Brooklyn's cries were disruptive and would feed her a bottle to quieten her. A motel housekeeper reportedly found Brooklyn in the closed drawer on multiple occasions and observed the couple's 1-year-old son sitting on the floor eating cookie crumbs. When confronted, Destiny allegedly laughed off the housekeeper's concerns. The housekeeper had taken photos of the infant in the drawer and alerted management. The Harris County Medical Examiner's Office determined the cause of death as suffocation. At the time of the incident, Jeremy claimed he was at a store and returned to find the drawer shut. The sheriff deputies and paramedics later reported he admitted to being the last person to place Brooklyn in the drawer with a white hospital blanket. Destiny said she was asleep and assumed Brooklyn was with Jeremy. On Friday the 20th of June 2025, Destiny, who's 7 months pregnant, was arrested and booked into the Harris County Jail with bond set at $300,000. The following day, Jeremy was arrested and booked into the Tom Green County Jail with bond set at $850,000. Both face murder charges in connection to Brooklyn's death. Marilyn Jennifer Mork, Jeremy's current girlfriend, was also arrested and charged with hindering apprehension. Luann Simon, Brooklyn's maternal great-grandmother stated that sheriff deputies and paramedics found methamphetamines in the motel and alleged that Jeremy and Destiny had previously placed Brooklyn in the drawer for alone time. Luann further claimed that Destiny referred to her current pregnancy, saying, "I'm gonna have a girl that replaces the one I lost." Luann expressed relief at the arrest, but criticised the delay in holding Jeremy and Destiny accountable. 34-year-old Jared Mitchell is behind bars accused of fatally shooting his mother, 55-year-old Monica Jennings, his stepfather, 63-year-old Michael Jennings, and his sister, 32-year-old Kayla Mitchell. At around 7:30 a.m. on Sunday the 22nd of June, authorities responded to a distress call from Kayla's husband at a residence at 6336 Lena Drive in Bryant, Arkansas. He reported finding his wife and in-laws shot to death after returning home from an overnight shift. Police arrived to find the 3 victims deceased from gunshot wounds. 3 children, unharmed but traumatized, were present in the home at the time of the killings. Investigators found no sign of forced entry or evidence of a home invasion, suggesting the act was not random. Authorities identified Jared Mitchell as a suspect. Approximately 8 hours later at 3:30 p.m, police located Jared in his truck on nearby Amber Lane and arrested him. Investigators believe that Jared's child was among the children present during the murders. Sergeant Todd Krausen of the Bryant Police Department stated, "Kayla and her husband were living with Michael and Monica at the residence. Jared did not live there but visited frequently." He added that the motive for the shooting remains unclear. Jared was booked into the Saline County Detention Center on 3 counts of first-degree murder. On Monday the 23rd of June, he appeared in the Saline County Court where a judge set his bond at $2 million. His next court date is scheduled for the 5th of August 2025. Jared has a history of violence. He was committed against his will in 2017 while living with his grandparents, who expressed concern over his substance abuse and alleged threats made against his family. A petition filed on the 18th of June 2017 detailed Jared's alleged threats towards his mother, her husband and his sister, noting he had knives laid out on the bed and on his person, and had punched holes in the wall. At that time, a judge ordered Jared to a detox facility for up to 21 days, citing evidence of addiction and homicidal tendencies. A 34-year-old Bristow, Oklahoma man will spend the rest of his life behind bars for killing his 5-year-old daughter and setting her on fire in 2020 because he believes she was controlled by witchcraft. On the 20th of June 2025, U.S. District Judge John Russell sentenced Adam Raymond Mason to life in prison for second-degree murder in Native American territory. On the 26th of August 2020, Creek County Sheriff deputies were dispatched to check on the well-being of a 5-year-old child. The mother of the child told law enforcement that their daughter was staying the night with her father Adam, and that he would not let her speak with the child. Upon arrival, deputies located the burnt body of a child, which they believed to be the 5-year-old. Deputies found Adam hiding in the woods nearby and took him into custody. Adam told law enforcement that he believed his daughter was controlled by witchcraft. He said he punched the child in the head multiple times and took her to a nearby creek where he placed a tire on top of her, set her on fire and fled the scene. Adam is a citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation and will remain in custody pending transfer to the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. A couple has been arrested for allegedly locking their adopted son in a room and confining him for a decade. On the 11th of June 2025, authorities responded to a home along the 12200 block of Tierra Mar Way in El Paso, Texas in reference to allegations that a 15-year-old boy was being neglected and confined by his adoptive parents, 51-year-old Richard Ramirez and 52-year-old Nora Ramirez. Richard and Nora allegedly locked the teen in his bedroom for extended periods of time and forced him to use the bathroom within his room. The victim reportedly told police his adoptive parents only let him out for dinner, and then he would immediately have to go back to his room. Richard and Nora allegedly subjected their son to this pattern of treatment since he was around 5 years old. Richard reportedly worked with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, but recently submitted his resignation. On Friday the 13th of June, Richard and Nora were arrested and charged with unlawful restraint, and were booked into the El Paso County Detention Facility with bond set at $100,000. The following day, they both posted bond and were released from jail. A 42-year-old woman is behind bars after she allegedly shot her 16-year-old son during a domestic dispute. At around 9 p.m. on Sunday the 22nd of June, authorities responded to an apartment complex near Dobson Road and Southern Avenue, Mesa, Arizona on reports of a shooting. When officers arrived on scene, witnesses told police that a teen boy had been shot in the neck and he was put into a black car that left the scene. Officers followed the car to the emergency room and began speaking to those involved. Upon further investigation, authorities said that 42-year-old Shamonica Cannon had arrived at her estranged husband's apartment along with her 15-year-old son. As they walked up to the door, the 15-year-old told police he noticed his mother was holding a gun. The boy attempted to grab the gun from her because he was scared of what she could do. That's when the 16-year-old went outside to help his brother and was shot in the neck while trying to grab the gun from his mother. Authorities said that Shamonica was pushed back into a neighbor's door, and that's when the gun went off. Family members tried to help the teen before they loaded him into the car and took him to the hospital. He's currently conscious and alert. While speaking with police, Shamonica reportedly admitted it was her gun and that it was an accident. She was arrested and charged with aggravated assault, disorderly conduct, discharging a firearm in city limits, and endangerment charges. She remains held at the Maricopa County Jail on a $150,000 bond.